All right, howdy, welcome back to Windley Mania, the greatest podcast you never heard of, brought to you by the greatest band that you never heard of, that band being Windley. You got to follow at Windley_band on all the socials to keep up with the world of Windley. And of course, I'm the best in the world, Andrew Reidner, and with me as always, man's best friend, Devin Hopkins. Devin.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
I feel good. I just had a shot of Jack for the first time in months, so I'm feeling pretty solid.
You know, the gift giving continues this week.
I know, it's awesome.
And it actually helps because this is probably the one I was the most nervous about, just because of how important this band was to me, and still is.
Oh, awesome!
So I'm going to go ahead and cheers, you guys.
Absolutely.
You got the water. Very nice.
Anytime you need more, let me know. I'll refill you.
I think that'll be good right now.
Did you say you just drank some milk right before
I had
this?
some chocolate milk. This is going great. But okay, so we're here with members of legendary Myrtle Beach hardcore punk band Bazooka Joe. We have Darel. And we have Darel.
Well, if you want to do it correctly,
let's do this.
Because I've had a stage name in every band I've ever been in,
right?
And I was known as Derelict in the Bazooka Joe band, primarily because he was dating a girl that
when we first met, we were both called Derelict for about 2 weeks.
Yeah,
everybody was just calling us Derelict, and then I started dating this girl. And she said, "You're not calling my boyfriend Derelict." So you got
so I got stuck with it.
Yeah.
And so I answered many different names, but Derelict was during the Bazooka Joe era.
Okay.
So to avoid confusion, if you're talking to him or about him, he's Darel. If you're talking about me, it's Darel.
And he was Derelict I just stopped calling him that. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Since this is an audio format, let's go ahead and just get every bit of confusion out of the way. Derelict. What was your position?
I was a guitar player.
Guitar player.
A little bit of background vocals.
Okay, and Darel?
I yelled.
Mm-hmm.
That.
All right. So we got that straightened out. Derelict, guitar, Darel, yelling.
And we had and the original band was Mark Holt on drums, who went on to be in many bands, including Dead Cut Tree, Squirrel sometimes, I God. And the bass player at the time was Sean Sheely, who also played in Dead Cut Tree, and later on Strike-O-Matics as well.
Okay, word.
So that was the original lineup. We did have another bass player later on, but we'll get to him.
Right on. Okay, yeah, because we're gonna go probably chronologically.
Yeah, I actually. Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. I actually sat down and made crypt notes about when and where and what happened.
And I did that too, kind of. I kind of spent a few minutes and got down some chronological stuff, and then I realized that I wasn't sure. So I kind of figured we'd rehash a lot of that here, and maybe it'll clear my head up a little bit.
Cool. Well, the thing is, personally, I found out about you guys when I was like in middle school. Me and him were getting the punk rock and stuff, and I got a record player and started buying records and found Send in the Clowns at a local shop. And it was just sort of this huge thing for me.
Was that in 89 or was it later on?
No. This was like 2009. So,
because I don't know when.
Later,
I don't know people's ages and years.
I'm 27. He's 27.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, you guys want to know something funny?
Yeah.
I spent fucking hours writing those crypt notes out, and I left them.
Well,
oh man, that's okay.
But the thing about Bazooka Joe was it was really cool. Like, I wasn't really aware of like a local scene at the time. That was a few years before I got into it, and I was getting into punk rock. So it was just cool that there was a band from here that was doing this specific type of hardcore punk, and it just like kind of blew my fucking mind. And
yeah, well, now a friend of ours, Rodney, sometime in the mid 80s, kind of did the same thing with 60s music. Like, we didn't realize there was anything going on in Myrtle Beach, beach music and some country stuff, but we didn't realize there had ever been any other genre, until beach music and country until we were a part of it.
Okay.
But he went out and found some old like 60s. Do you remember?
Oh yeah,
I can't even remember the name of them.
It was like a '60s garage rock band that was actually from
cool.
either Myrtle Beach or Conway, and they actually put a record out. And I remember listening to it at his house. I'm like, wow, this band was from Myrtle Beach. It's crazy. And
Like
it was definitely
60,
early.
yeah.
It was very Nuggets sounding. Yeah. If you know what Nuggets is, Lenny Kaye put out a series of compilations. Lenny Kaye from the Patti Smith Group put out a series of compilations of all these '60s garage bands that everybody had forgotten about because they only did one record or whatever. And it was very fuzz tone sound and stuff, and it was cool. Unfortunately, we can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
But there's that history. That's what we're trying to establish. There was this history.
Okay. So, but the point I was trying to make was that really all I know about Bazooka Joe is Pastor Muppets, Sending the Clowns, and the Op Ivy Show. and
then we were fortunate to see them at the reunion show.
And so I'm going to ask you guys, where are you guys from?
Originally, I was an Army brat. I traveled a lot, and I ended up in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
I was born and raised in Conway, and immediately upon graduating from high school, made that big jump across the waterway to the beach.
Okay.
And we met.
So an interesting fact.
Yeah.
I lived in Fayetteville. I went to school with this kid named Larry, and
well, first of all, before that even, we both.
We ran into each other.
Spent summers in Ocean Lakes. Our parents both had summer trailers in Ocean Lakes campground. And we never ran into each other until one day by chance, and carry on about Larry introducing us.
So I used to get drunk every night at Ocean Lakes campground in the summer. So I don't remember meeting him the first time. But the following summer...
You had just gotten off work.
But the following summer, I ran into him and Larry from my old high school in Fayetteville. Larry had moved to Conway and became friends with him. And this is... They might not even know what this... Do you guys know what the Newhart Show is?
Bob Newhart?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we get this thing all the time. A mutual friend of ours named Larry introduced Darel and Darel. And there's this running joke on the Bob Newhart Show where hi, my name's Larry. This is my brother Darel. This is my other brother Darel. Okay. This is something we've had to explain for years. Well, since 83 or whatever. Yeah. But anyway, that was kind of the running joke.
And Larry is the brother that does the introducing. So there really is, Larry and his brother Darel and his brother Darel, because we're all good friends and everything.
Okay.
So anyway, we ended up meeting each other, started talking about punk rock. Yeah, I like punk rock too, I had another friend named Ron that lived in the campground who said, hey man, there's this place down in Garden City called the Rain Day Inn, and there's a punk band playing down there. We're like, hell yeah, let's go check it out. So we go down there, and it's a band called Babylon. They're from Greenville, South Carolina. And it was a cover band, but they were doing stuff like Sex Pistols, The Clash, The Ramones, David Bowie. Who else were they doing? A lot of cool stuff. They had a handful of originals.
They had some really good originals.
Which were very much in the late 70s, early 80s original punk sound.
Yeah.
And that's where me and Darel had started meeting all these other people. Like, hey, there's other people here who likes this stuff too. This is crazy. And
we had both come from something where basically when we met each other, we basically didn't know other people like punk rock.
So you guys had grown up with music in the home, pretty much?
No, I was just I got
into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I grew up. My parents didn't have a stereo until I was like 11, and then it was like there was some cool stuff. I mean, there was Johnny Cash and Lynn Anderson. So I grew up with that, and my mom's 50s stuff.
Okay.
Her old stash from high school.
I discovered
living
in Fayetteville. I discovered punk on my own because all my friends, who I still like, by the way, if anybody hears us from Fayetteville, but they were all into Foreigner and Boston and Styx, and I'm like, there's got to be something better than this, man. It just doesn't do anything to me, and I kept coming. I used to buy Rock Scene magazine, which was basically a New York magazine that talked about all these bands. I kept seeing pictures of the Ramones and the Sex Pistols. I'm like, man, what is this stuff, man? What is it? Finally went to a pawn shop in Fayetteville and found a Ramones album and a Richard Hell album and put them on. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is it. Thank God or whoever. I know there's something out there better than what I've been listening to.
Man.
And that was all. It was balls out from there, man.
Yeah, there was no turning back.
No.
And it was pretty much the same thing. The first real punk rock that I ever heard was the Ramones and X-Ray Specs. And it was because a friend of mine had a friend, his dealer actually, who just bought a lot of records and bought a lot of junk because he bought a lot of records. So this was in his junk pile. And he made and he thought it was just funny and horrible. And put it on cassette because he thought it was so funny and horrible. That cassette made it to me. And my high school buddy was like, man, listen to this shit, and I heard it, and it was like, whoa, yeah, and no turning back.
Wow. There was a dude in my school who came up to me and said, "Hey, Darel, I heard you like that punk stuff, man." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I found this 8-track tape. You can have it." And it was the New York Dolls' first album. I'm like, "Oh, all right." So that he turned me, unwittingly turned me on to that. And then another guy in school is coming down the hallway with a Walkman, and he goes, "Darel, listen to this." And it was Dead Kennedy's "Too Drunk to Fuck."
Nice.
I'm like, holy crap. He goes, "Don't tell anybody I got this." Nobody wanted to admit. There was a couple of people in high school that did like it, but they would not admit it. I got no problem, man. I heard this punk band. Man, punk shit, Darel, fag stuff. I'm like, yeah, fuck you.
Like stigmatism, sort of.
Yeah. But look where we are today. It's fucking all. It's all over the. Every commercial has a punk song on it. Every movie has a punk song on it. So we were right. We were right from the beginning. We knew what we were talking about.
And right a couple of months before we met, I met Cal Benton, and he was playing in a lot of cover bands.
Cal Benton was a musician in town who was a surfer musician who was amazing.
Skateboarder, yeah, okay. He's awesome. And so before I'd ever met a single person alive that liked punk rock at all, Cal Benton was playing in a band with some of my high school friends. And he came over and he saw the Sex Pistols in my records. And he was flipping through. He says, "Man, all everybody has is like stuff that we play," which he wasn't. He was just playing. He wasn't,
doing the gig.
Yeah. And he saw the Sex Pistols. He pulled it out, put it on, and started going, "She was a girl from Birmingham." And I'm like, "No way, you know this dude?" And then that was the moment that I thought, one of two things: either I'm not crazy, or I'm not the only person that's crazy.
Sure, yeah.
So that was a defining moment for me. Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit, just to, because we'll go on and on about 1982 forever.
We'll do another episode.
We thought, we felt like we were an island here. We did meet a handful of friends, and we became fast friends, and it was probably a group of about 10, 15 people who discovered each other, and we hung out together.
10 people every night, 15 occasionally.
Yeah. And, there were times we would walk down the street, and this one guy in this big lifted pickup truck stopped and saw me and Darel walking down the street looking weird or whatever, and he called us a couple of epithets or whatever you call it, and Darel blew a kiss. Darel blew a kiss at him, and of course the redneck jumps out of the truck and punches Darel. And
what he said was, "Are you a boy or are you a girl?"
Did he say that?
Yeah, he said that to you, but I'm the one that blew him a kiss.
Yeah. But that was the kind of thing back then. It's like nobody, it wasn't it's not like we were attacked all the time, but there were the occasions where, people looked at you weird and laughed at you and spit at you or punched you, as it were. Sure, yeah. And of course, during the winter down here back in the early days, in the early 80s, the cops were kind of bored, and if you looked weird, you were a target. And it wasn't anything horrible, not with nightsticks or anything, but you kind of got the third
harassed.
Degree. Yeah. And
how dare you walk home? How dare you walk in public?
I mean, they definitely went after us before they went after the drunken rednecks walking next to us.
Yeah. So back to that show you first went together, where you guys went to together. What year was that again?
That would have been 82. The Rain 82. Day Inn is what we're talking about.
82.
That's where basically everybody from back then met.
That was
where we all.
as far as I'm concerned, that was sort of the I guess, epicenter of the punk scene starting in Myrtle Beach, because that lady had the guts to put in a band that was playing stuff like that.
Okay.
And they would bring in similar bands, but nothing as cool as Babylon was. And so that was sort of the nucleus of the punk scene in Myrtle Beach.
So would you guys start going to other things consistently in town, or
there was never anything in town? We didn't know of anything. It was just us having house parties at his place, or well, I didn't have a place, but it was his place. There was always parties at.
Okay. We would go to clubs if they would have, like if they even said like New Wave Night, we'd go to it just to support that, and because it was a place to go, where we wouldn't hate what was playing.
Now we started hearing about people in Charleston. There were some punks down there. Like, wow, a buddy of ours named Maury knew these people down in Charleston.
Maury was one of those people who was there from the beginning.
Yeah, he was a little slightly older than us, but he kind of knew.
And he came from Fayetteville as the only punk rocker. I came from Conway, and Maury came from
Georgetown.
Wow.
And
trifecta.
And so we heard about this show happening in. This is 1983. Heard about this show happening in Charleston. It was the Dead Kennedys and Circle Jerks.
Wow.
So that was the real. I believe I want to say the first punk concert we ever went to. Yeah. And the opening band was Civilian Chaos Corps, which was a local.
No. Special Olympics.
They were called Special Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a great name.
that's right. Special Olympics. I think it was the same guys though, wasn't it?
Maybe some crossover, but
if anybody's listening, call in and tell us who it was. Mary Chris. Mary Chris was a. Yeah, we'll get sideways on this if we start talking about it. Sorry, we'll talk about you later, Mary Chris. She was an important person in the Charleston scene. So that was our, I would say, our first real punk concert. And then we started hearing about people in Florence, and then Columbia was having shows.
It's all because Maury was moving around. We met people from Florence because Maury moved to Florence, and then he moved to Charleston, and we met the people from Charleston.
You're just going spreading.
So it all started coming. There was a Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Florence thing happening.
Okay.
And then a little bit later on, Charlotte people. We started meeting them, and then eventually Columbia. As far as the scene really kicking into high gear here, Maury again was telling me about. I heard there's a band in Garden City or Surfside called punk band called Scott Free. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We'll have to look for these guys. And I was working at a record store in 1984. This kid comes in and he turns around to walk out, and he's got Scott Free on the back. So I chase him out the door. I say, hey man, are you with that band Scott Free? He said, yeah. So I started talking to him. His name was Danny Lowe, and he was the drummer for Scott Free. And, oh man, where you guys live at? So it was a meeting of the minds and a meeting of the crew, the punk crews from Myrtle Beach and the south end of Myrtle Beach coming together. So it got pretty big then,
It felt like
it grew.
That's when we felt like we actually had a scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because before it had been that, maybe a dozen people, who got together to drink.
That's pretty.
And
was it still like house
it still
shows
felt like us
At this point,
versus them. But then when that Sox T and Surfside crew came around, it felt like we had a scene.
Yeah,
it felt like
it turned into it. And so we started, and Danny says, yeah, we got a house party coming up. And whose house? Was it Cliff's house? No, it was Lee McCormick's house. This guy named Lee was having a house party. And there was like, I don't know, 50, 60 people slamming in the living room to Scott Free. I'm like, yeah, this is great, awesome, man. So Scott Free gets credit for really kicking off the punk scene in Myrtle Beach. Now, there were several versions of Scott Free. The original version had a guy named Cliff Parker
Lee
singing.
McCormick was the first singer.
Was he the first singer?
For a minute before we ever? I think so.
I have no idea.
I think he was.
I saw Cliff singing, so I don't know.
That's all right.
But then after, and Cliff, they were together for a while. Cliff left, and a guy named Steve Sadler came in as a guitar player. There were some musician changes and stuff, but it turned into an instrumental surf band after a while, and then more of a, not quite as hardcore, but still punk. Mm-hmm. So there's different phases. If you might see written down Scott Free 85. Because it was a different sound from the original Scott Free.
That would be the
three-piece
with Steve Sadler.
Yeah.
So those were the original guys, man. They absolutely deserve credit for kicking things off in this town. So if you ever see those guys, you got to thank them.
I didn't know that either. I know that they played that show at Brick House a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And
that was Scott Free 85.
Scott Free 85.
Okay. So I think it's
Before
because
that,
of the
it was a
different
four-piece
versions.
and more straight-ahead hardcore.
Yeah, it was more of a Circle Jerks,
Okay.
Black Flag, Dead Kennedys type of sound.
Awesome.
A little more rough edged or whatever. So then we're like, we started talking. I was like, man, we got to get a band together. So me, Darel, and Maury. So we'll try. It didn't really work out with the three of us. But then the drummer from Scott Free. When we first saw him, there was a guy named Darren playing drums. The original drummer was Tommy Tipton.
I've heard of Tommy Tipton.
Tommy Tipton's an excellent drummer. He's been around for a while.
Everywhere. He played at Legends, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, you
For
know
years
Tommy
and years.
then.
Yeah.
I think he was like a drum instructor for like a day in our band room. Or
Probably, yeah. He's done a lot of things. He's been in a lot of bands and he's done a lot of things.
Yeah. Anyway,
but,
sorry.
But Tommy was the original drummer for Scott Free, but he got sick, and so they had to bring this other guy in for a while. And during that time, he got better, and we started talking to him like, well, you want to play with us? So we started a band called Mass Appeal. Me, Darel, Tommy, and a guy named Dwight Turner. And at that point, we started sitting around the house going, man, we need to set up a concert, And so we're looking at the back of the first Corrosion of Conformity record, and it's got Reed Mullins' number, the drummer from Corrosion.
Now, and the way we
How
had
convenient.
the record, we couldn't even. I had been wanting to get this punk rock band that was, only 5 hours away.
Yeah.
Which big deal. It was a big deal. For there to be a band that was advertising in Maximum Rock and Roll and Flipside, to be that close. Wow.
Yeah.
And had a record out. And
we were actually near somebody who actually put a record out.
Yeah.
So I call up the number and start talking to Reed. I say, hey, man, we're in Myrtle Beach. We want to do a show. I'm stoked, man. I'm like, okay, you want to play? Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm like, okay, how much do you want? He goes, I don't know. I was like, how about $100? Yeah, I'm stoked. He just kept saying, I'm stoked. I'm like, okay, well, this date was May 15th or something like that. We're going to do this. And we're like, well, let's just keep adding. Let's do a huge all day thing. So we had Mass Appeal, a band from Florence called the Sex Mutants. Who were actually very important to the early days of punk in this area.
We're writing these down. We got to find these people.
Sex Mutants are very important. And
Civilian Chaos Corps.
Civilian Chaos Corps, we brought it from Charleston. We were supposed to have an incredible band called Subculture, and they had to cancel last minute. Winston-Salem. Look them up if you have to. Subculture from Winston-Salem. I think they just re-released they released a live album recently, but they're not together, but they were very, very important. And I'm spacing out on the other bands right now. Mein Kampf, who is just kind of sort of a footnote, but the important thing is I believe it was Brian McKenzie's first band. Everybody from Myrtle Beach knows Brian.
I think that's when I met
everyone
Brian.
comes on here and Brian McKenzie comes up at least.
Sure, absolutely. Of course. He's had his hands in everything.
I got to get a hold of him.
So that's where I first met Brian, and I think he was like 15 years old.
I think he was 15.
And I met him the day of the show.
Did he play drums?
No, he was playing guitar.
He was setting up drums. He was setting up what's his name's drums.
So we have this big show.
The Mange
from Charlotte. Mange, the band Mange was a last minute addition to take Subculture's place. And a little trivia: the guitar player in Mange ended up being the guitar player from Morbid Angel.
Oh shit!
Dave. Oh my god, I know his name.
I'm blanking on it.
David. Look up his last name. I'm spacing out. I knew I was going to space out, man.
The internet locks out when we close.
David, the guitar player for Morbid Angel. That was a bit of trivia. So
that was at Reed Mullins.
So very first huge concert in Myrtle Beach, punk concert, was Corrosion Conformity for $100.
Where was that at?
And we at Burgess Community Center.
Center. That's
right
the
next,
one. Yeah.
Right next to us.
Okay, I didn't want to say where it was, but you did. So
I was actually gonna. When you mentioned it, I was like, "Is this the show?" Because I was gonna ask about the Burgess Community.
Yeah, we've been chipping away at finding out more about that show, but now we have the whole story.
It didn't look like that. It was flooded all outside. The bathrooms were outside and were always nasty.
And we actually had to have
just a big.
We started the show
place.
and the power went out, and luckily a friend of ours from Charleston, his name was Torch, who happened to be an electrician named Torch, managed to get it going again. So it was it was fun as hell. It was memorable.
We
it was
didn't know
legendary.
how many people were going to show up.
Here's the really weird thing. Originally, it was supposed to be at the Armory in Myrtle Beach, the south end of Myrtle Beach. They pulled it from us the last minute, like literally 2 days before. And we already knew people from Charlotte, Columbia, Raleigh, people coming from all over for the show. What the hell are we going to do? Well, like I said, I was living in Ocean Lakes Campground, and there was a maintenance guy there named Billy who lived in Burgess. And he heard me talking about it. He goes, we got a community center you can use. I'm like, well, how much is it? He goes, I don't know, $100. I'm like, okay.
Perfect. It was $75, I thought.
And it was $100.
$100? Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
So now you got to think, there's no cell phones, there's no pagers at this time, just flyers and phone calls. Yeah. We still managed to get everybody to figure out that it wasn't at the Armory anymore, and moved all the way to Burgess out in the middle of nowhere, which nobody had ever heard of before.
Yeah.
It was an amazing feat. I still can't figure out how we did it. But
and we had no way of knowing that there were actually even going to be more than 20 people showing up. We knew there were people from all these different places coming, but we didn't know how many. And then it was like, boom. Yeah, sure. But that's what we did then. Anybody from anywhere.
That was how desperate
travel
and how hungry everybody was for a punk show. They didn't care where it was at. We'll figure it out once we get to that town. And it worked out great. It worked out fantastic. And one of the cool things about it was, Burgess back then was pretty much just a black community, and there was all these black kids playing basketball in the court. On the basketball court right next to the building, and they're all looking at us like, what the hell is this, man? And like, we waved them on over, come on in. And so we let them all in for free, and they're sticking their heads through the door, and they're bobbing their heads and stuff. They apparently thought it was cool. So, and you got to remember, this is 84. Most white people didn't even like punk rock back then. Yeah. It was kind of a neat community gesture. Come on in, guys, and they enjoyed it, man. They had a blast. And then went back out and played basketball. Like, I had enough of this shit. But
I wish more venues had basketball nets outside.
Yeah, I'm not digging this band. I'm gonna go play basketball.
Let's go hoop.
And then we ended up once that was in May, and then we ended up doing like 3 more shows that year there.
Yeah, several more shows. We brought in DOA, the legendary DOA from Vancouver. And they're still playing to this day, by the way. If you're not familiar with DOA, man, you got to look them up. They're one of the best. I mean, as a matter of fact, the term hardcore comes from their first album, Hardcore 81. That's pretty much agreed upon that is where the term hardcore punk came from, was that album. And why they called it Hardcore 81, I don't know. But
well, was 81 and they were hardcore.
But nobody was using that term hardcore at the time. It was still just punk rock.
Right. Okay.
So, or at least they seem to be the first guys.
Yeah, it was like 3 years later, after they called it that Flipside put on their cover, what is this thing called hardcore? Or was that 82? It was at least a year later that Flipside magazine of hardcore.
Flipside magazine from California.
Started questioning, what is this thing? Is this a real phenomenon? So a year before was when they called their album hardcore. Oh, and Joey didn't even have that album. When he was at the house, he's looking through my records, and he's like, man, I don't even have this one. I'm like, you can't have it.
That was the great thing, though. I mean, when Joey, the whole band stayed at his apartment, and man, we were just like in awe of those guys. Like, wow, we've got DOA laying on the couch and sleeping on the floor, and
they stink.
And man, they were the coolest guys ever, man. Absolutely wonderful guys.
I was gonna before you said you had a maintenance friend, I was gonna ask, like, how did you sell that to a community center? Like, yeah, we've got these punk bands coming through. Well, I guess I can ask how you sold it to the Armory, and maybe they figured out what y'all were trying to do.
I think that's what it was. Their excuse to be the weekend that it was happening was the beginning of Harley Week.
Okay.
And then there was also big Shriners down here. So it was in Myrtle Beach, had an influx of Shriners, bikers, and punkers.
And hairdressers.
Was it hairdressers?
It was also a hairdresser.
They all walk into a bar.
Yeah.
So their excuse when they called me up said they're having to cancel. It was like, well, we don't know if the bikers are going to cause trouble. We might have to use the Armory as a jail.
Wow.
Which I think that was kind of a bullshit excuse. They just don't. They figured out was punk rockers going to be there, and they weren't going to let us use it.
Tell them it's Christian rock. It's accepting,
but
uplifting.
But there is a funny thing about Billy in a little bit. Let's get through the shows we had there. There was DOA. A band called Life Sentence from Chicago played after
with
that.
76% Uncertain.
A band called 76% Uncertain. Any of these bands I'm naming, you got to look them up, man. They're so important. Even if you've not heard of them before, they have shaped what we listen to now. No matter what form of punk rock you play, pop, hardcore, whatever you want to call it. These bands have shaped what we sound like now. And Amazing Grace out of Miami played.
Yeah.
And I wish I had my notes because I know there was more. Bored Suburban Youth from Columbia, who are obviously another very important band for this area. Darel, I told you to write notes.
It is all 83.
We did like 3 shows that summer.
I think 3 shows is that summer.
And then Steve Sadler did one that fall, which was the last one there. I think it was all local bands, though. Right?
Okay. And then the following year, DOA came back again.
Yeah.
And then we had the 76% Uncertain show, which Mass Appeal had opened up for it. Do we want to go into what happened? Or should we keep that?
Let's hear what happened. Okay. If something of note happened, we want to hear it.
I'm going to put this as without... Okay, so Darel used to make up little pamphlets, little booklets with our lyrics in them.
Okay.
Yeah,
and 1 or 2 songs, and he put lyrics in. That's it, and we'd hand them out to the audience.
Kind of like Stryper with the Bibles.
Ooh, I think this is pre-Striper. Actually, it might have been the
That's
same
where they
time.
got the idea.
They swiped it from. Those guys live here too. They probably saw your show.
Yeah, Perry's a good guy. So we had this one song, and it was
there were
it was
2 cop songs.
It was a fictional story about an incident
based
with a
on
cop.
things that had happened.
Based on things that had happened, but it wasn't pointing anybody out. Somebody took that pamphlet, gave it to a cop they knew. They took it as a threat, like a direct threat to them, and it wasn't. It was just a story.
It even had a disclaimer down at the bottom saying this is not really. We're not really advocating this. It's just a fantasy thing. Yeah.
Well, they didn't look at it like that. And they started harassing us big time. So that was kind of the end of the shows there.
How long did it last, though? Like from how long did
2
the shows,
summers?
Just 2 summers, about a year and a half, maybe.
That's actually good for a Myrtle Beach venue.
Yeah,
exactly right. I was going to get that.
I've seen
but it's
enough.
still only like 4 or 5 shows. Though. So.
Well, the funny thing was, the day of the 76% show, we were loading up, and this older black man comes by. He goes, "What the hell are you guys doing here?" I'm like, We're having a show here. He goes, "You can't use this place." I said, "Well, I rented it." He goes, "Who the hell did you rent it from?" I'm like, "Billy. Billy ain't got nothing to do with this place." so we've been paying Billy $100 every time we use it, and he didn't have anything to do with it.
That's amazing.
I don't know if he's still around or not. I really don't. But that was funny. We were renting it from a guy who didn't even have any business renting it for a year and a half. But yeah, they started harassing us, and actually, the following night, some people who were there for the concert had rented a hotel room, and I went over to the hotel room to hang out with them, and there's about 10 of them hanging out in the hotel room, and we're all on the balcony, and this cop car comes by, and for some stupid reason, everybody runs back into the room, and I'm like, "Why are you guys running?" Well, of course, he sees a bunch of Mohawks running and punks running, and so he stops and comes up there, and he starts banging on the door, and he yelled at them about something. He turns to me and goes, "I don't want to see you around here anymore." And I'm like, "I'm just standing there. I didn't even do anything." So later on that night, we went carousing, and we got a little tanked, and it wasn't no business to be driving. So I was going to go sleep in the room with him. But before I walked upstairs, there was a snack machine. And I put my quarters in. Of course, the thing got stuck. Whatever I was getting got stuck. So I'm banging on the machine. Right when I'm banging on the machine, that cop pulls up again. And he comes marching up to me, grabs me. I'm like, "Dude, my snack. My snack is stuck."
Yeah.
He throws me up against the car, slams me up the car, actually throws handcuffs on me, and then grabs me by the shoulders and starts shaking me. He goes, "Stop fighting me!" I'm like, "Man." So I ended up going to jail that night for nothing.
Wow.
I don't even remember that.
And what sucks is what little bit of money we made off the 76% show that night, his girlfriend had to come bail me out with it.
Wow.
I don't remember.
Yep.
I would say you used it to buy that snack.
Man, that was an expensive bag of chips, I tell you what.
So
I was going to fight it too, but everybody that was staying in that room was from a different city. So they weren't going to come back to help me out, you know. And,
they got what they wanted already.
Yeah.
So how long did Mass Appeal stick around?
That was Mass Appeal's last show.
Okay. Wow.
Mass Appeal lasted
Tommy
about
was
8
15,
months.
so remember he had parents.
Yeah, I don't think his dad was too happy
back
about
to him, back to them, and
his parents were too happy about what happened. He's like, I got to take a break from the band, and that was the end of that band. So we didn't have a band for a while. Did we set up any shows between 85 and 87?
Probably, but I don't.
Yes, we did. Wooden Nickel.
Yeah.
That a venue?
Yeah.
There was a place on the just a half a block off the boulevard, right by the pavilion, right next to the pavilion. A place called the Wooden Nickel. And we met this dude whose dad owned it. He goes, "Man, you guys can have shows there." I think the guy was from Sumter, actually.
Yeah.
And so we had several shows there. A band called Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid Kids.
Oh, yeah.
Another very important band.
Yeah.
They were doing the grunge thing before the detuned grunge dark metal thing pretty much before anybody. I mean, if you think of Mayhem, I doubt Mayhem had ever heard of them, but it was along those lines. And I'm still friends with them to this day, man. They'd come down a couple of times and stay.
They just re-released their record.
Here, thanks for reminding me.
We got
Look here. Where's the camera at? I got to re-release the record. Here, pass this around, gang. You can look at it.
Did yours come with ants?
Yep. Well, the original. Yeah, they actually. Some of them actually came with little plastic ants.
Mine came with ants.
That is awesome.
I'm not giving that to you, by the way.
No,
I brought it. You're
I
on your own, brother.
Like Jello.
Paul, the guitar player, owns a record store in Muskegon, Michigan, called Third Coast Vinyl. So if you're ever in Muskegon, it's an amazing record store. You know what? We need to back up a little bit though. 85.
I'll explain that comment though real quick. This is jumping forward to us being on tour one year, and the guy was selling our merch, and Jelly Biafra comes up. This is in Berkeley.
No, we're getting to that. No, we'll get to that.
Save that story. Okay.
Yeah, this is years later.
Coming up, Jello Biafra.
Stay tuned. For anyone that wanted to tune out, we got Jello Biafra.
It had something to do with
he's actually outside.
You passing that to
Follow my timeline.
1985.
So we got to go back to 85.
Okay. Before the Wooden Nickel.
This is this happened in Charleston. A couple things happened in Charleston. Very cool. Guy we knew down there named Walter was originally from Connecticut. Was kind of a mover and shaker as far as bringing punk bands around to the area. Brought Gigi Allen down before anybody really knew who Gigi was in this area, and Gigi was he was doing a tour. Where each town he went to, he'd have somebody put the band together for him.
Yeah.
So Walter got me.
He sent out a cassette, and a local band or a group of musicians would just learn the songs.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So Walter got me, a couple of guys from Civilian Chaos Corps, and this other guy that I can't even remember whose name was at the time, to learn his songs. And we did, and there was a house party. This girl was having an eviction party.
Nice.
So we had like 5 bands play. Mass Appeal played. Scott Free, Civilian Chaos Corps, another band I can't remember right off the top of my head. And
Colombian Neckties?
I don't think it was. I don't remember.
I think it was. They were there.
Okay,
at least.
I believe you. Let's go with Colombian Neckties. So I had met these.
Yeah, because I remember Carlos was wearing. I remember the shirt Carlos was wearing. They were there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're editing some of this, right?
I'm not. He might be.
Okay. So anyway, I had this great idea. I said, "Look, man, it's an eviction party. What if the cops come before Gigi plays?" He goes, "Oh man." I said, "How about we have Gigi play first?" So the band was actually called Gigi Allen and the Dildoids. So we played first, and it was probably maybe 15 to 20 minute set, and we even told he was already underground notorious for stuff he would do at shows. We told him, "Hey, Gigi, don't shit on this stage. It's a small house. Other bands have to play." "Oh yeah, man, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool." But we did a couple of practices with him. We hung out with him. He's a really fucking cool guy. He was just nothing more than another obnoxious punk rocker as far as I was concerned.
I've heard that like in that setting he's kind of just a regular punk rock guy, but then when he's performing it's like a switch.
As I know him, other people might have different stories. Jeff Clayton from Anti-Scene knew him way better than I did.
Yeah.
But my experience with him is like he turned it on right before his show and turned it off afterwards.
That's okay. That was my question.
But I mean, that's all goes to performers anyway. But there's a whole psychological thing going on around that. But whatever. It was an amazing show and very, very legendary, as it were. Another show that happened in '85, Walter also put on, was there was a metal band from Charleston called Fatal. He brought in an unknown band called the Melvins.
What the fuck?
Another unknown band called RKL, and another unknown band called Christ.
Christ on a Crutch?
Is it Christ on Parade or Christ on a Crutch?
Christ on Parade, I think.
Christ
on Parade.
Right?
I'm sorry, guys. I always got those two bands' names mixed up. Anyway, Fatal played first, and it was sort of supposed to be a joining of the scenes, because there was still a divide at that time, like punk rock, fuck you metal, fuck you punk rock, and it was sort of trying to push everything together because Corrosion of Conformity had already crossed over at that point, or was starting to, and then DRI was starting to. There was already that crossover thing, but we were trying to push a little bit more. Well, Fatal got up there, and they mostly did covers, and they would not get off the stage. They were repeating songs, and their fans were getting more. There were fists thrown at kids just standing there, and it got a little bit scary. Finally, they stopped playing. Board Suburban Youth gets up there to play. It was their PA, and somebody made them sound like shit. It wasn't horrible, but it just wasn't as good as Fatal sounded. So okay, they got through it, and there was some scuffles and stuff. Melvins get up there to play, and I'm standing right in front of Buzz Osborne. Again, this is '85. Nobody knew who the fuck the Melvins were. They only had one 7-inch that had just come out, and man, they didn't even play yet, and somebody threw something at Buzz. I don't know what they picked up and threw. I don't remember, but he picked up his guitar and swung it back at him and tried to kick the guy. I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck, man? They kicked into it. They said, fuck it, let's just play. And they kicked into it, and I was like, my jaw hit the fucking ground, man. And I'm talking to the guy next to me. I'm like, hey, man, is this band actually as good as I think they are, or am I fucking dreaming? He goes, nope. You got it, man. They're fucking amazing. I must have asked that dude like 5 times. Is this band this amazing? Am I dreaming, man? It was fucking insane.
Was Dale playing with them yet?
Dale was still with them, and Matt Lucan from the end ended up being with Mudhoney.
Okay, yeah.
Was still with them at the time. The original 3-piece. RKL got up there to play, and we're all sitting there going, yeah, how about that? How about that, guys? This is, you showed us what you had. Now we show you what we have, And RKL got up there to play, and man, they just tore into it and like, yes. And when I'm like, remember looking back at those metal guys, and they're all looking all pissed off and stuff. Like, yeah. But by the time RKL got done playing, it was getting really hairy. I mean, I saw people walking around with bats. My girlfriend at the time was like 4'11", and there was a guy getting ready to swing this bat, and she actually reached up and grabbed his arm and stopped him from hitting somebody with the bat for no fucking reason.
God damn.
Christ on Parade got ready to play, and then just all hell broke loose, and they never got to play. So that was our first merging of metal and punk back then. Man. So it was just so dumb because the sounds are so similar.
Yeah. It's just a dick measuring contest. We're all losing. Like, why are you guys mad at each other?
For me, the only difference between metal and punk back then was the quality of the studio.
Yeah.
It was like, so you guys can afford better studios.
Yeah.
Fuck it. You know,
I gotta ask, since you're naming all these bands that are now like, well known, like, it might be silly, but like, how did you guys connect with these bands to book them, or how did these people connect to book them?
Again, Walter was very important about that.
Yeah.
But we would just, if you look at any Maximum Rock and Roll from back then, or Flipside even, if you open the page, there was a scene report.
That wasn't out yet.
Oh, it wasn't out yet?
Yeah.
Before that?
Well, there was a scene report, and if you wrote into Maximum Rock and Roll and told about your city, they would print it.
Okay.
Hey, we got this venue, we have these bands, here's our phone numbers. Everybody would do it. So you would just call up bands and say, hey, you guys want to play here? Or you call up, hey, I saw your name in Maximum Rock and Roll. Can our band play here?
And people would just pass around your number. Once you book one band, that band would tell everybody else they played. They would pass your phone number along to everybody else they played with on that tour. And sooner or later, there'd be hundreds of people with your phone number.
For people who have never experienced life without the internet, this is how it was, man. It was strictly word of mouth.
That almost seems easier than it is today. I'm going to be real. Like, I do all our booking, and I'm still struggling. It seems like it'd be easier. But,
it might be because it is simpler. You just call these numbers, and if you don't get that,
to go.
You don't have to wade through all the crap.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just curious because, I'm just thinking, how you just, that was my question.
It's just completely passing numbers around.
Yeah.
And it was like, I remember getting a call from one of the guys from Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid Kids, and they literally said, hey, we're Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid Kids. Can we play? We want to play in your town. Okay. Really? Yeah, okay. We just got our record out. Send me a box of them. No, I'd never heard of them before. Never heard of them. I'm like, send me a box of your records. So they actually sent me 2 boxes of records, and I sold a box and a half of them before they ever even showed up.
And it's so cool
just for me telling people, hey, this band's playing here.
For that, because we got to be really good friends with him. We went. Our first little tour was up to Muskegon, on like a Christmas break. Our first long jaunt out of town.
We're going out of town.
Yeah.
Cruise vacation.
We played 2 shows. We played Detroit, and then we played their town, Muskegon. Actually, I think they were from Grand River, but the place was called Icepick in Muskegon.
Awesome fucking place.
Fantastic place, man. Really fun people. But yeah, I mean, literally the very first phone call said, send me 2 boxes of records, you guys can play here. And I had most of those records sold before they even showed up, and everybody fucking loved them, man. That's awesome. I did that with a band called The Burnt as well from New Jersey. They sent me a box of records, which I had actually heard of The Burnt before. I'd never heard of J2K2. I'm sorry, Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid Kids. That's easier. Hey, that's how much I love Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid Kids. This is some of their art. They have creepy crawly artwork, like bugs and stuff like that. And this is a tattoo from one of their some of their artwork.
Sweet.
So J2K2 forever, motherfucker.
Now I'm indoctrinated. I can call them that and sound cool.
Right. People can go, who? And you go,
you don't know.
We call them.
So that was 85. There was 86 with Jim Jones.
86 was DOA came back, and the guitar player for both of those times was Dave Gregg, and he had gone to a thrift store here, bought this white linen suit, and then when they came back, they said, man, he wore that suit every show since then until like a week ago when the ass finally wore out of it.
Yeah, if you look at pictures from DOA from 85, 86, it's Dave Gregg, the guitar player, will have a white suit on.
Wow. Yeah.
That's funny.
And unfortunately, man, this is so sad, but everybody in that band except for Joey Shithead
that was playing at that time
is dead now. Yeah. It sucks, man. It's
So you guys were booking shows. When did you get the taste to play in a band again?
Well, so Mass Appeal broke up, and we weren't doing. Neither one of us did anything for a while, and
for a year.
Yeah, for about a year. And this guy that I kind of slightly knew. I don't even know where he came from. A lot of people back then, like I had a lot of parties at my house, and people just end up there. And this is the only way I know I met this guy, and his name was Sean. And he comes over and he's like, hey, man, I know this guy who plays drums. You and Darel, we ought to get band together back with Darel. I'm like, He goes, let's do it. I'm like, okay. So I literally just met Sean Sheely, and he introduced us to this guy named Mark Holt.
We were roommates. Me and Sean. Yeah.
You and Sean? Not at that time, you weren't.
We were. We had just moved
well,
in
that's how we knew Sean.
we had just moved in together. Well, he was dating Mary Beth, and I was dating Sherry. And they moved, and we all got an apartment.
I had no idea of this.
And then, we were living there when we started.
I didn't think you knew him either. I thought we all just met.
I barely knew him.
Okay.
Mary Beth is the one that knew him.
Okay. All right. So that's how it happened. Anyway, Sean said, hey, let's get a band song. All right, we'll give it a shot. So we went out to a warehouse, and basically we took all the Mass Appeal songs, and we showed them the songs and came up with 5 songs immediately. And then there was a buddy of mine had a band that was playing at was called The Basement at the time, which has probably been called that a couple of times. Crazy J's at one point.
Okay. I was gonna say the only basement that I think of in this town.
And most recently it was called
It was Good Day Cafe.
Good Day Cafe.
I booked there for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean that place goes way back as well.
I don't know what it is now, but it's still there.
My buddy Britt, who goes under the name of Snooze, that I knew from high school, his band was playing there. Sociopaths.
Wait,
and
Sociopaths?
Yes.
Who was Brickbat?
No, it wasn't Brickbat.
Who was Brickbat?
Brickbat was from Wilmington.
Okay, that's been wrong in my head for decades then.
Well, listen to what I'm telling you. So anyway, after the practice, I knew they were playing, so let's go over there. And I said, hey, Brett, we just formed a band. Can we play? Yeah, man, come on. And they let us use their instruments. So we played our 5 songs immediately. And then
we went down to the lab, or what would become the lab, the next night.
So that was our first show down there. And then the next night, there was a buddy of ours, or a guy we knew, I should say, owned a place, had a place.
Was renting a warehouse.
He was renting
they were making tie-dye T-shirts.
Yeah. And I said, man, this is a pretty big place. Warehouse. Let's have bands play here. And so we set up there the next night and played for, 10 people?
Yeah.
But that's how we did it then. It's like any place that would let us play.
Yeah.
We were there.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know the Basement was active during that period. I've only
It's
heard,
been there since like the 50s.
I knew it was been there. I just knew it was active
sort.
as a venue during like
earliest I heard was like late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s, like the Michael Wood era.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was back then.
If you talk and I've only found out about some of this within the past couple of years, but if you talk to some of the older people who were from the 60s and all, they'll even remember stuff going on there in the 50s.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
But the first show that I remember being there, I was working at Record Bar in Myrtle Square Mall, and I knew this band called Anti-Scene. I'd seen them open up for The Exploited, and they came strolling in, and Joe Young, turns out to be Joe Young, hands me a flyer. He says, hey, man, can we put this flyer up? We're playing tonight at the Basement. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's, be sure to bring your friends. I'm like, okay. So we go down there, and they're playing, and if you remember where the bathroom was there, well, they set up in that little spot in front of the bathroom. so, and if you know anything about Anti-Scene, Jeff's a kind of a scary looking guy, one of the nicest guys in the world, but he's scary looking. And so people were wanting to go to the bathroom, but you had to walk through the band to get to the bathroom. And at that time they were doing sort of the Alice Cooper thing with the dolls, like and using a sword and sticking swords through the dolls and stuff. So it was, to the normal person, it was kind of freaky, but and kind of scary. But that was the first punk show that I know played there was Anti-Scene in '86.
They're still around too, right?
Yep, they still are.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we had met Jeff at a Scream show in the front of
No, I met Joe then in '86. Scream was
we
later
met
on.
Jeff in like
No, that's when I met Jeff, and that's when I actually met Jeff and Joe and them.
I thought we had met Jeff before then.
I saw them open up for The Exploited in 1983 in Columbia.
83?
Yes.
That was 83?
When I thought about stealing Waddy's jacket. Yeah. You guys familiar with The Exploited?
Yeah.
Okay, if you look at pictures of Waddy, the singer, especially in the early days, he had a cool leather jacket that was all painted up and studs and stuff. And I went to see them play, and after they got done playing, there wasn't that many people there in this huge building called Huger Street. And so me and a friend of mine walked backstage and started smoking a joint with them, just out of the blue. And Waddy's got this really thick Scottish accent. You can barely tell what he's saying. So I'm constantly going, what? Huh? And so some guy comes back, and so he walks away, he goes, I got to go get paid. I'm like, okay, cool. So he goes, I'll be right back. And I look over, they all leave, the whole band leaves the room, and there's his jacket sitting on the chair next to me. And I look over at my friend Dan, I'm looking back at the jacket, and I look at Dan, and I'm like, I can't do that. I said, just for a split second, I thought, what if I took this famous jacket? I would never do it. Never in a million years steal somebody's jacket. But I did cross my mind for one split second.
What time of year was it?
Cold?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. It might not have been. I can't remember. But I mean, I would have had the most famous jacket at that time in punk rock.
Sure.
Yeah.
But again, I would never have done that, folks. And I don't expect anybody to think of doing that, because my jacket got stolen. I flipped the fuck out.
I still feel like mine got stolen in like the very early 90s.
You don't fuck with anybody's leather jacket.
And I still feel like I'm missing an arm or something.
Yeah, man.
I lost my jacket. It wasn't even leather. I was still sad about it.
Mine got stolen. It just disappeared. And then 2 or 3 years later, some guy comes up and he goes, hey, man, I got this jacket. It's got a picture of Bazooka Joe on the back. I think this might be one of your guys. I'm like, yeah, and then I got it back. And I'm like, oh, my God, man, you knew whose jacket this was when you took it out of my house, motherfucker. And then my girlfriend, a couple of years later, my girlfriend played a joke on me. Her and this other guy hid it. Oh, man, I'm like flipping out. And then they fessed up and said, here it is right here. I'm like, I wouldn't talk to her, man. I was so pissed at her. Don't take anybody's leather jacket, man. It means too much. And I don't even I'm vegan, so but it's still a leather jacket. It means a lot to anybody who has one. So, especially if it's fixed up and painted. Yeah. Boy, we're getting off subject.
So you guys were playing.
I'm over here crying because I'm thinking about my leather jacket. 20-some years later, and I'm over here crying.
I'll cheers you with some PBR.
You guys are starting to play in a new band.
I know it's 30 years later. What is?
Huh?
You were starting to play in a new band after Mass Appeal.
That was Bazooka Joe.
Oh, you're keeping us on track.
Sorry.
Okay.
The start of Bazooka Joe. How did the name come about?
We had
several
different names, and they were stupid fucking names.
They were all stupid. Everyone were stupid, except from great ones that I came up with that I can't remember. They were shot down, and then we were standing outside of the warehouse, and we were all kind of frustrated with it. And he goes, "How about Bazooka Joe?" And we're all like, "Sure."
Oh, okay.
Well, and let me clarify something. There was a band called Big Black. Steve Albini was, and he just died recently. If you know anything about Big Black or Steve Albini produced Nirvana. Okay, so anyway, he had Big Black had a song called Bazooka Joe, and that's where I got the name from. It's not the bubblegum, not the bubblegum. Unfortunately, we made the mistake of
leaning into the gum.
Using the gum logo sometimes and using the characters.
More so than even us, it would be other people using it on flyers.
And other people would do it on flyers without us, even saying anything. And that was the big mistake. So Bazooka Joe, the name Bazooka Joe actually comes from the song Bazooka Joe, which is about a guy who goes to war and his job is to shoot a bazooka, and he comes home fucked up in the head.
And the way I always used it in our early graphics and all, I used it kind of as a sarcastic kind of as a kind of sarcastically about
war.
A Bazooka Joe, about war,
and
the graphics reflected that, and took it away from anything to do with the bubblegum.
But unfortunately, like I said, we started using that stuff, and people started associating with that, and I'm like, I really regret that, but it's not the bubblegum.
And it was that bubblegum we were playing. So.
And I always get gifts too for like people give me like Bazooka Joe's like stuff, which is fine. I always thought Bazooka Gum was kind of fun. Anyway,
yeah,
he had a comic with it. Man.
I had completely forgotten, and of course all of our orders for T-shirts and records and everything were by mail, so people had to send you money. And sometimes with that, there'd be Bazooka Joe comics.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
And I think we might even put some of the comics in some of the records too, which wasn't.
Oh yeah,
which was stupid. Too.
I don't. Did we?
Did you get one that had a comic in it?
I don't think I did. Is yours? I don't have one with a comic in it.
I'm trying to remember if I.
Because mine.
Some of them, we didn't do it a lot, but I think we did it once in a while.
I had the 7-inch with. We talked before we hit record. I have one with the Op Ivy flyer.
Yeah.
We also, when we first started sending them out, there was a DJ in town named Freaking Deacon.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh shit! Okay. All right. Off the subject for 30
well,
seconds.
It's on Freaking Deacon.
That's the Freaking Deacon.
He's part of the family. Yeah.
That's my sister-in-law's dad.
Holy shit! Oh my god! Is he still alive?
Yeah, dude.
Oh my god!
He's fucking awesome. I want to get him on here because he's got some crazy fucking stories.
Well,
wild.
He put out a record, a 7-inch called "I've Been Discothequed."
Yes, that's right.
It was like a novelty record.
I've been discothequed.
And I worked at Record Bar in the mall, and we had a whole bunch of them that were just like in the back room. And when they're like, man, we're clearing things. They started throwing stuff out. I'm like, why are you throwing these records away? Like, nobody's buying it anymore. Like, I'll take them. so when we started mailing out records, this is so fucking weird, man.
Yeah. He comes. He's. I live with my brother and my sister-in-law. He's like at my house he's like once a month.
So what we would do,
and he's always just talking shit and telling stories about his DJ days, and it's hilarious. He's funny as shit.
So what we would do is I had all these Freaking Deacon records. I'm like, I don't know what to do with these. So we would mail out records to people like, well, hell, let's just give them a bonus record with it. So the original Bazooka Joe records, that if you mail ordered, you got a Freaking Deacon record with it.
Oh man, next time he's over, I gotta tell him.
That is hilarious,
because
Devin.
he always brings up like old. Yeah, man, I used to tour with REM. I used to tour with this band. But if I bring up you guys, it'll probably strike a different part of his brain.
So you didn't know he had a record out?
I had no idea.
I might still have one. Well, he should have one, man.
Oh, but, man. If you got one, I'll take it.
It's sort of like it's sort of a semi-spoken word thing. He's like telling the story about I went to this club and people were dancing all funny and stuff. I've been discothequed.
that's like having dinner with him. Like seriously, like no lie. He's always just like he'll go on about like anything. It's like, are you making this up? And it's like real, like every time.
So we got.
Oh man! I'm so excited.
That's absolutely amazing. That's so amazing. But we got this review in Flipside magazine for the record, and he didn't really say the guy reviewing didn't say too much about the music. He goes, man, these guys really are trying to sell. He says it came with a poster, it came with a lyric booklet, it came with a comic, a Bazooka Joe comic, and it came with some bonus record. Man, these guys really are trying to sell this. So we're like, well, what about the fucking music, man? Come on.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It's all about the packaging, but the packaging was like as rudimentary as you could get because it was everything was Xeroxed and just thrown together, folded over, sheet of paper.
So, did you already mention the first show as Bazooka Joe?
Okay, that was
first show. The first show, I think we actually performed under the name Discipline. That would have been it, the very first one. But it's just because we didn't have a name. I think we just told him it was the main band.
Because we just does sound familiar.
We didn't have a name at the time.
Okay.
And I was like, and I heard it was some industrial band, and the guy was screaming in the microphone, "Discipline, discipline," and I'm spacing out who the Genesis Pure,
maybe.
So it was an industrial band. I guess kept screaming "Discipline." I'm like, hey, how about Discipline? But we weren't going to stick with that. We just used that as the first name. And I think the second show we actually came up, like let's use the name Bazooka Joe from Big Black.
I see.
Not the bubblegum.
Not the bubblegum.
Big Black. Okay.
What year are we at?
Yeah, what year is this exactly?
This is 87.
So that's 87.
87.
Early
Okay.
87.
June of 87 was when we got together.
Yeah.
And
so who was this lineup?
This was me, Derelict, Darel Watts, Mark Holt, Sean Sheely on bass, Mark Holt on drums. And did we do a tour?
We started playing shows, a good many shows, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We used several Mass Appeal songs.
Yeah,
and so that gave us
the first 10 songs or so were probably Mass Appeal songs.
So we were able to play a 15-minute set using those songs in like 2 weeks. So we were playing pretty quickly.
And we didn't do any touring during that first year, but except for that up to Michigan.
Okay.
And
which was awesome. We spent a week up there when it was this deep in the snow and freezing our asses off, and it was awesome.
But we were in our warehouse almost every night playing.
Yeah,
and we'd do the occasional show in Florence or Charleston or here in Myrtle Beach. And
what was that Florence scene like?
Florence was a very cool scene. We were very tight with those guys. Sex Mutants were the band from Florence.
Durango 95 from Conway, Steve Sadler's band. We saw them at Patriots Retreat.
That's right.
Patriots Retreat was the club in Florence, where Sex Mutants would play just about we'd go there about every Sunday for a few months.
The Patriots Retreat was this old little rundown shack of a club a few miles down from Francis Marion, where the college kids would go party. But they started having punk shows there
on Sundays.
Yeah.
Sunday afternoons is when they would allow it.
So and it was a pretty neat place. And I remember one night we were leaving there was a show, and we were the last two to leave. I mean, everybody had completely left. Like we were probably sitting in my car drinking, and I had a can of spray paint with me, and across the street was a dumpster. And I'm like, let's go spray paint Mass Appeal on that dumpster. So we get over there and we're both crouched down, spray painting Mass Appeal on the dumpster. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this cop car pulls up, and this very stereotypical short, fat cop with a stub of a cigar sticking out of his mouth, just like
he had seen all the same
just
movies
like
we
Smokey
had,
and the
and he
Bandit,
modeled himself
and then a
after
tall, skinny cop with him. And he goes, "What you boys doing?" And like, "Oh shit!" He goes, "What's that say? Mass Appeal? Man, y'all get out of here. We don't want to see no more mass appealers around here." Like, holy shit. It was like straight out of a fucking Smokey and the Bandit or some 70s, it's a very typical, stereotypical cop thing.
Yeah.
I just always remember that. It was how we got out of that, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really surprised we didn't get.
They were probably drunk anyway. Couldn't fucking take us in. So.
Okay. So, was there anything leading up to the first EP, first 7-inch?
So all those shows at Castaways and everything were right before that.
So so we knew about Operation Ivy through Maximum Rock and Roll, basically.
Okay.
Well, no, we didn't know about them at all. Dave got my number and address and sent me a tape.
But I knew who they were. They because I'd read about them.
Because
they were talking about hedge diving.
Okay.
And they were there, and I just read the article.
Regardless,
about
we had no idea
but,
they would be
we weren't that familiar with them. We didn't know about their music. I just read about them.
The name.
And so it's sort of the same thing. Dave
Hayes.
David Hayes, who was their road manager and was one of the owners of Lookout Records, called us up.
The guy who did the work.
Called Darel up and said, "Hey, can Operation Ivy play there?" And of course, yeah. You don't have to ask us twice, even though we don't know who you are, basically, other than from the magazine. And it was us, Operation Ivy, Uptight, who was another
and the big
another Florence band, who the guitar player went on to be the guitar player for the Independents, Willie B.
Okay.
Let's see how it's all incestuous, you know.
Yeah. Everyone knows everyone. Same as it is. It's never been different in Myrtle Beach. Everybody's in every band.
Yeah. Except Brian McKenzie didn't have anything to do with this one.
No, never.
Okay. So we brought them down, and not thinking anything twice about the show, and man, that was probably the biggest show we ever had.
It was
and the cool thing about
amazing.
it was at a place called the Castaways, which was right on the boulevard, which was basically in the 80s. I don't know how far the club goes back. I'm sure the late 70s, but in the 80s, it was pretty much a hair metal club, cover band club.
My dad gave me a flyer from there when the Ramones played there. I don't know if y'all missed that when I was
They didn't play Castaways.
Was it It might have been a different place.
They played Purple Gator in the Headroom, which was actually the same building. They just changed the names.
Might have been Purple Gator then. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry,
A lot of
continue.
bands played Purple Gator.
Yeah, Purple Gator.
That was years later.
Yeah, Purple Gator you can look up on like Setlist FM and it'll come up.
That's another thing, man.
Yeah.
That the bands that played there would blow your fucking mind.
Yeah.
Pantera
Pantera might have played. I know White Zombie. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We're jumping
Sorry,
years.
we're talking about Op Ivy.
I feel like a time lord.
Op
here.
Ivy played here for $4.
Yeah.
That stuck out to me the most on the flyer. $4.
And the $4, a lot of that, we used to just try to. All we ever tried to do was not lose too much money, right?
Yeah.
Nobody was trying to make a dime. It was just not lose a whole bunch of money.
At least break even.
We were trying to find that sweet spot.
And usually I would pay for the flyers. And then the night of the show, I would usually forget to take out the money for the flyers. We'd just end up paying the expenses,
just
it might be
paying the
$15 or something,
band.
but $15 was a lot. And but that night, we didn't know how many people were going to show up. Nobody knew who Operation Ivy was, or the Big Thing, and they'd seen Uptight and Bazooka Joe, so it was on the boulevard. We had no idea that people were really going to show up, more than a handful of people. And the owner of the club comes up and he goes, "Hey man, we were supposed to get a cut of the door or something." He's like, "How about I just give you $250 and you don't worry about taking a cut, and we'll watch the door and everything." And I'm like, "Oh, cool, a sure thing. We don't have to worry about losing money." Yeah. So I took $250.
It was probably more door money, wasn't it?
Oh man, it was big.
It was $1,200. They took it over $1,200 at the door.
I didn't know that. There was at least
he told us there were a little over 300.
A little over 300. But the cool thing was there was people. Now, in addition to the punks who would come to any punk show that we told them to come to, or asked them to come to, I should say. I mean, sort of the Michael Wood thing. Michael, is this a good band? Yep, come see them. But if we put on a show, they knew it was going to be a good show.
Yeah.
But there was such an array of people. It was Easter weekend, so there was bikers coming up there. It was typically a hair metal club, so all these cock rockers were coming up there. Just your regular Joe off the street going, "Hey, well, all these people walking upstairs for? Let's go up there." Yeah. So it was a strange mixture of people, and they were all getting into Operation Ivy.
Burly bikers up there dancing.
Whereabouts was this? I think I missed that when I took my
corner. Where Castaways was located. Yeah. It's not there anymore, but it's at the corner of 8th and Ocean Boulevard,
so just south of 8th.
Just south of 8th, like a half a block,
like by where the pavilion was and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's insane to think about a punk club or a band having a club having a punk band on the boulevard like that. That's like, I know there was other places over there too, but it's just hard to think of now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they tore that building down about 5 or 6 years ago or something. I was hoping somebody would open up again. Downstairs was an arcade and a bar, so after the show, you just go down there and play some pinball or foosball or whatever, and continue to get drunk. But there was lots of amazing bands that played there as well. Ace Frehley played there. Wendy O. Williams was there. Blue Oyster Cult.
And we did some good shows there. MDC.
And as far as punk shows, we did Millions of Dead Cops, or whatever. It was MDC because it's always different. MDC, The Adolescents, Operation Ivy. I have this written down. I'm trying to picture my notes.
In the book you forgot.
And I was hoping you
Did Agnostic Front play there?
Agnostic Front played there a few years later.
Oh, that was later. Okay.
It actually ended up becoming called the Danger Zone. Castaways got sold, and it was called the Danger Zone. But they continue to do punk shows there, or all kinds of shows actually.
Yeah.
Did
you do any shows? I didn't do any shows after it was.
I might have. I just don't recall. I was sitting there writing it down last night. I'm like, it's starting to get hazy at that point.
But Operation Ivy. I mean, those other bands were great too. I mean, and seeing them play with MDC was awesome. They stayed with us for several days, and so that was cool too. Just getting to know them and all, and being there when the guitar player would call his girlfriend, and then hand the phone to the singer and say, "Hey, you want to talk to your kid?" Because they were
I remember that. I remember Dave Dichter, the singer, going, "Hey, okay,
the other
get
way
out."
around,
He was
whatever.
like, it was so real. It was kind of sweet because he'd be like, "Okay, sweetie, get out the map. Okay, you see the ocean on that right hand side. Now point." And he was like showing his daughter or his son, whoever it was, like showing them where they were at. And here's the singer from Big Bad MDC. Okay, sweetie. But the other fun thing was, especially back then, like nobody ever asked, "Hey, we need a hotel room. Can we stay with you guys?" Yeah. So like I said, we had DOA stay with us.
We got no shame. The last band's
Operation Ivy, MDC stayed with us. Jim Joe, and that's the cool thing is you got to be, after the show, you got to know, you got to be buddies with them, not just like a promoter. It's like you were friends. You were sharing beers or sharing a pizza with them or whatever, and really bond. You really end up bonding with them. That's the fun thing about punk is like, it's not a standoffish thing. It's not a rock star thing.
Everybody helps everybody, whenever they can.
And that Operation Ivy show, a lot of people, and I'm definitely one of them, will say that that's the best show that's ever been in Myrtle Beach. I will say that right this minute. As far as I'm concerned,
absolutely,
no one's ever
just the camaraderie between the different types of people, and
we lucked out and got a good PA and lights.
Yeah,
because there was a band, the regular heavy metal band that came and played for a week, was off that day. They didn't want to break their PA down, so we got to use it for like $50.
That's awesome.
We just had to bring in a sound guy, and so we used these awesome they had an awesome PA and awesome lights, and we got to use it for like $50. So
and the smoke machine too.
Right?
Do you remember the band, or was it just
No, I don't know. It was just one of those. There was just a circuit.
a house band for that week?
It could have been. I don't think Jackal was around at that time.
It wasn't Jackal yet.
It could have been.
Did they leave their chainsaw?
There was no chainsaw.
I think Jackal was a little bit later, but there was another band called Wrathchild that used to play there, which we were kind of friends with, and it was kind of cool.
I don't think it was them. We knew
You don't
them.
think so?
I don't know.
But Wrathchild, the drummer, I'm spacing out on his name.
Yeah.
I even wrote his name down last night. But he's actually now the drummer of Godsmack.
What?
Oh wow!
And we liked them because they played really hard. And then at the end of the show, like even people would start leaving and they would start playing punk rock covers.
They would do GBH and Dead Kennedys.
And so we would go just to be there at the end of the show. Oh. They're the only band I've ever actually said was my favorite band. I've loved bands. I've said this album is awesome or that is, but the only one I've ever said is my favorite band is Operation Ivy.
It's amazing how big and influential those guys became.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know. I read an article about them in Maximum Rock and Roll, and then they played here. And God, man, look at them now, man.
And
Holy
the
crap.
thing is about them, we played 3 shows. Well, no, we saw them 3 times. We played 2 shows with them and then saw them in Berkeley. We played the show here, which was, you've heard about that one. Okay. And then we played the next night in a little basement. I think it was in the basement in Charlotte, right? There were some warehouses, and
we played with Operation Ivy 2 times.
we played the next night.
Oh wow!
What?
We played the next
wild.
night. Mankind's Decline, a local band from Charlotte, opened up, and we played, and Operation Ivy played.
This is absolutely the first time I'm hearing this.
There were pipes running along the ceiling because it was in the basement. Sugar Creek practiced upstairs in the big place.
I swear
David Hayes
to God,
has pictures
I have
of
no
it.
recollection of this whatsoever.
Okay, well, we did.
Okay.
And-
well, damn, I didn't know that, man. That's fantastic. I bet it was a great show.
And Mark, there are pictures of it. I'll send you pictures of it.
Oh, man. My mind is fucking blown. I don't remember
You don't remember this?
No.
Most people only get to open for them once.
I feel bad.
But don't you feel great now? You
I
opened
feel
for him
very
twice?
good. Yeah. The really cool thing is I'm going to jump ahead many years. I don't do you guys recall Rancid playing here about 15 years ago, 12 years ago?
I was getting divorced.
I heard about it.
I was getting divorced. That was 2008.
They played at House of Blues, and Evil Presley from the Independents knows them very well as well. He's kept in touch more than we have with Tim Armstrong. And
my buddy Tim.
Well, the thing is, the Independents have played with them a couple of times as well, or Rancid did, not Operation. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got it. Yes, it's basically
so. Anyway,
it's the same.
One of the coolest things that's ever happened to me or us was we went to the Rancid show at the House of Blues here. We were hanging out with Tim before the show, and then in the middle of the show, he goes, "Hey man, I was in a band called Operation Ivy, and we played here back in 1987, and we played with a band called Bazooka Joe, and the fucking crowd went, yeah."
I didn't buy a beer for the rest of the night.
Holy shit! And my girlfriend Jenny sat next to me. She goes, "I'm never going to hear the end of this." I'm like, "Oh my fucking god!" They cheered for Bazooka Joe. Holy shit!
And then I drank for free for the rest of the night. Everybody was buying me drinks.
Y'all should have been up there too. You know?
But so we saw them. So we played with them the next night at this bad place, horrible sound, like as bad as any sound of any show that we ever put on. But just horrible sound, basement, and they were amazing again. And then we saw them in Berkeley at Gilman Street, their crowd, their town, packed to the gills, and God, just amazing in a different way. So 3 completely different settings, and just amazing every time. I mean, I've never experienced anything like that band. So, the way that band made me feel.
So David Hayes, as I said, was the one of the owners of Lookout Records, and he had, I think, at this point, he had split off from Lookout shortly after that, and he started his own label called Very Small Records, and we got a lot of promotion from this. He put out a 12-inch. For those of you at home, I'm holding up a 10-inch record called "What Are You Pointing At," which kind of makes fun of the straight edge scene where there's always picture of them pointing somewhere.
Dude's always preaching, pointing up.
So he put us on a record with Descent, Screeching Weasel, who also played here, by the way. So we kind of skipped over that part too, or was that later?
That was like 89.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
We'll get there.
It's that Doctor Who thing again. I'm jumping around. Anyway, we got a lot of publicity off this. I am showing this to Devin at this point, and he's looking at it intently.
I'm looking at it intently. I am browsing the selection.
Pull out the record.
I'm pulling out the record. Oh, it's like splattered. Like
one of the first records I've seen that had splatter vinyl, and his advertisement for it was making the record collector, making the record collector nerds sweat
because they don't have every version.
Because everyone was completely different. And for those who like to collect records, you got to have every copy.
You got to have every variant, every. And Bolorama stereo.
You don't need any.
I love reading like every word of a record.
That's what I love about vinyl. That's a whole other. I love
every word that is printed on this record. I will read, but I am now passing it to Andrew.
Okay,
so he can skim it.
And the cool thing is, we have somehow or other. We have connections to just about all of those bands. Let me see the front of it.
Iconoclast we played with. Descent we
played with Iconoclast in San Francisco.
Descent was from South Dakota. We stayed with them and played with them.
We stayed with them, and they played here. They didn't play here. They had to cancel because their van broke down.
Descent actually, that was kind of cool because remember Descent mentioned us in one of their songs. I forgot about that. Yeah, because they were talking about bands that tried to make a difference, and they named all these bands.
And
we were the bands
and we knew all those bands too.
Yeah,
there was not only is there this is punk rock in general a fairly small thing, but there was also a circuit of bands, a very small circuit of bands that all knew each other, like the ones on this, that we knew. Vaporlock, they were also staying at Ashtray when we stayed there.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, at the Op Ivy House.
Yeah, I wasn't there that night. I had something important to do.
Yeah. Someone what?
I had someone important to do.
So let's get into Pastor of Muppets.
Okay, that was the first record.
Right.
Interesting story about how that came about. I was working at Record Bar, and Master of Puppets, Metallica had just come out a year before, something like that. Anyway, somebody came in and was asking me, "Hey, what's a good Metallica record to get?" And I was like, kind of in a hurry, and I said, "Pastor of Muppets," and I stopped myself. I just busted out laughing. I'm like, "Oh my God, that's the name of the record. That's it." I go in and practice. I'm like, "I got the name of the record, guys. Pastor of Muppets."
So it's genius.
You guys,
absolute genius.
You guys had the songs, and where'd you record?
There's
on a porch.
Yeah.
What?
It was on Linwood's porch.
Okay, there's a guy named Linwood Salvo who was a bass player from here. Amazing bass player. Has been in a lot of bands, mostly cover bands, but very technically amazing bass player. So shout out to Linwood.
And an artist.
But he had in his house. Him and his roommate had a small studio set up. And hey, Linwood, will you record us? How much we charge? I think it was what, $20 an hour or something like that. Yeah. It was hardly anything, and so that's where we did it, right down on off of Oak Street, downtown Myrtle Beach.
Okay. This is a side question. Do you know a Dave Alwine?
Yes, he did. He recorded our second record up in Columbia.
So you're telling? Okay, wait a minute. Okay, because he told me that he just had recordings of you guys. This is a long while ago because we were talking about Myrtle Beach stuff. And I didn't know that was just the second record that he was talking about.
The second record, we went to Columbia, and it was called the Jam Room, which is a really well-known place.
We recorded it.
Okay, too. And Jay
Matheson.
Yes. So we were the first band to record at the Jam Room. It wasn't even finished yet. I talked to Jay recently. I saw him not too long ago, and I told him, I reminded him, "Hey, we were the first band." And he goes, "Oh, really?" But he didn't even know because he just.
He's got a million bands.
They hadn't even.
He's got so many stories.
Well, they hadn't even finished the studio yet. Like the glass that you have for the recording booth, they didn't have the glass in yet. So Dave had to shove pillows in front of it.
Wow.
So we recorded the second record there.
Okay. But okay, we'll get to that, I guess. But promoting.
How do you know Dave?
I did school there at Midlands, and I was in their audio engineering. Program.
Is he a teacher there or something?
No, he was. He did a live sound class, and then I interned there for a few months.
Okay, yeah. Well, Dave produced and engineered the second record.
Okay, cool
for us.
I didn't know that. Because he just said that he just had like live recordings.
He's got the raw recordings, probably.
Okay. All right. Well,
promoting fucking world.
Yeah, promoting the first record. How'd that go?
What do you call promoting?
Well, like getting it out there. Yeah, were you just sending? Was it the same thing as like booking bands? Pretty much?
We sent out 50 or 100 to fanzines and radio stations.
Okay.
And yeah.
And
that was it. And an ad in Flipside and an ad in Maximum Rock and Roll. A 1-inch ad in each.
Okay.
So and that was it.
How much did that cost? Out of curiosity.
Dollars. Okay. Not.
Back then it was a lot of money for us to do, but then when you think about it,
we were making like $100 a week. So
Shit.
in our jobs. So
so it was justifiable.
So it wasn't. Yeah. Anything was a lot.
Anything was a lot of money.
$20.
But thinking back now, like God, man, that was nothing. Now
it might have been $10 for an ad or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But another person who helped us out a lot, and I'm spacing out his name, who worked at Maximum Rock and Roll.
Which not Tim?
No, the Asian guy.
Oh God.
Oh my God, man! This guy helped us out so much.
Lance
Hahn.
Yeah, Lance Hahn. Awesome dude.
He
passed away. He had stomach something. I forget what it was.
Yeah, he was really into us.
Jesus Church
J Church.
J Church was the name. And Cringer were his bands.
Cringer, that's what it was. He was really into us, and I guess David Hayes had turned him on to us. I believe maybe. Or maybe he just bought our record.
No, I knew him. I had been Pen Pals with him.
Oh, okay.
I put out a cassette with Cringer on it before he ever moved to San Francisco.
Oh, I didn't know this. See, I'm learning shit too. This is awesome. So anyway, Lance was really
when he still lived in
it.
L.A.
And so he got us onto a Maximum Rock and Roll compilation. I might be getting ahead of myself. Am I jumping years again?
I don't
Well,
think
these
that
two
was
records came out pretty close together, right?
A year apart.
Yeah.
A year apart. And
I don't know when the compilations came out.
Well, it's just to back up. We did a little tour. We did a tour off of both the records. Right after the first one came out, we did a coast to coast tour. I think it was supposed to be like 20 shows. I think we ended up doing like 9 or 10 because they kept getting canceled, or the van broke.
It seems like we did a lot of shows.
Or the van broke down and couldn't get to the next show.
The second tour is when we didn't.
No, we did.
That's when a lot got canceled.
Well, the second half we had to cancel because the van broke down. The van broke down every fucking time. Needless to say. So we did a coast to coast tour off the first record. Played Gilman Street, which was probably our biggest show.
That tour, yeah.
Yeah, I have video from that, and I couldn't believe how much they accepted us, man. They were just so.
That's
the crowd was going nuts. I'm like, wow,
like
this is
bucket. That's like a bucket.
And I'll tell you what,
place
it almost fucked up too, though, because I used to use a big muff pedal. And I had an amp that had no distortion to it, which I found out later the reason it didn't have a distortion because it was a bass amp, which I didn't know it was a bass amp. That's why I didn't have distortion.
I bet it sounded really cool.
So I had to have this big muff pedal, and I go to hook it up right before, and they're really, and at Gilman they're tight with their times, on, off. That's it. You better move.
Sounds awesome.
It's not working.
It's awesome.
It's not working. The pedal's not working. I'm like, oh my god. So I go to reach for my backup pedal, which was a Boss distortion. It's not there. I'm like, where's my Boss distortion? Sean goes, Tim, Operation Ivy had a show, and Tim needed a distortion pedal, so I let him borrow it. I'm like, motherfucker. So I got no distortion pedal. So I'm running around to the other bands going, you got a distortion pedal? Nobody's using the distortion pedal because it's built into their goddamn amp. I'm like, oh no. So finally, I catch this guy who played right before us, a band called Flower Leopards, which I think a couple of guys used to be in the Adolescents.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I tracked him down and said he's putting his amp in the van. I was like, please, can I please use your amp? We're screwed, man. Yeah, man. So I used his amp for that show. And so we almost didn't get to play that Gilman show. And it ended up being possibly one of the best shows we ever played.
We ended up playing 2 shows.
They invited us back for the next
Kamala,
night.
Who is mentioned in the Screeching Weasel song, Kamala's Too Nice, she was incredibly nice. She gave us extra money and another show to make more money because she knew we needed it. So she gave us an extra show just to get money in our pocket and gave us, or was it we stayed one night at the Maximum Rock and Roll House. That's when they gave us extra money.
That was later on. That was the next tour.
Was it?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe. No,
anyway,
it was
when we were staying there and when Lance was there.
Yeah.
Anyway, they ended up giving us extra money because they had to get rid of all their money by the end of the year. I mean, they couldn't have money, and so they said we have a little extra money we need to get rid of here.
That's awesome.
I mean, it wasn't like a pocket full of money, but you know.
But that's how well they treated
That's all you
everybody.
need.
That's how well they treated. That's how well they
town.
treated us, man. And man, that was just amazing to be treated like that. And a bunch of people, most people didn't know who we were.
That far from home, too.
And it's just a part of that scene. It seems like that's just what they do.
You looked out for each other, man.
Yeah.
You made sure the traveling band had the fucking money, and the rest of the guys can, huff it.
Well,
imagine if you played that really loud punk rock through a clean sounding amp. Clean sounding bass amp.
That amp was so dry, it was crazy. I could not figure it out. It literally was like 7 years later that I figured out that it was a bass amp that I
That's amazing.
Okay. So, and then Dave Outline recorded Sending the Clowns.
Okay.
So 89.
I don't know why I didn't. Yeah, that's okay. But he probably misremembered it as well because,
Excuse me.
Maybe he just never knew we put the record out. I haven't seen him since then.
Well, then there's that. Yeah.
So, I don't even know how. I think we knew Dave through Mark and Sean. I think they knew him.
I have no idea.
But anyway, so yeah, we recorded the Send in the Clowns record, and
we pressed them at United which we had just heard of some punk rock bands doing, which was the place in Nashville where a lot of people got their stuff done, and they would do it for anybody, and it was cheap and easy.
And it's still around, United Pressing. It still is. I think it's got different owners now.
And we Xeroxed. No. We had, of course, we had to use typewriters, so we'd get someone at my girlfriend's work to type everything up, and we'd just scribble something or have somebody that could draw a little bit, do something. And then Mark's mom would print the stuff.
Mark Holt's mother had something to do with this printing place in Conway,
Or Independent,
and she ran all the covers through that, so it saved us a lot of money.
And then we fold everything.
It was definitely Gonzo style, man. Let's wait till the place closed down and run this shit off.
Yeah.
So we don't have to pay for it.
Anything happen on that tour for that one?
For the
second one?
Set of the Clowns?
Second one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We did sort of the same route, but backwards on this tour. The original tour we started through Atlanta and went out through the South. This time we went up north first. Played a show in New York, which I thought this is kind of a cool story. There was a squat. It was called Squat or Rot. And they would throw these benefit shows for people who lived in squats up in New York.
Like ABC No Rio. Are you familiar with the squat? ABC No Rio?
I'm afraid I'm not.
I don't think
that's a bit obscure.
I know the concept.
They ABC No Rio had a place. It's for decades. I think they even bought it recently. But it was a squat. They moved into it, and a abandoned place. Moved into it. Had had businesses there. Put on shows, all kind of stuff, and went to court, all kind of stuff. And I think they actually own it now.
Well, the place we played at was called The World.
Yeah,
and if you look at the, I believe it's the Burning Down the House video by Talking Heads. At the end of it, they're standing in front on the stage in white suits, and there's sort of multicolored flower psychedelic looking thing behind them.
Okay.
If you go back and look at at the end and they're just standing there, kind of with their shoulders going up and down. Well,
is that the big suit video?
Yeah.
No, that's different. That's a different one.
Video.
So anyway, that's the stage at the World. So they had all these bands, and they were all New York bands playing for the Squat Rot band.
Half of them had the same drummer.
We were the only out of town band to play, and this is the coolest thing is Mark and Sean went back and stayed with some friends slightly upstate a little bit outside of New York City. Me, Darel, and our roadie Chris McAllister hung out in the city, and we partied on the stoops till sunup. I mean, the sun was coming up, and we're absolutely trashed. And we didn't think about getting paid because it was a benefit. We didn't give a shit. Well, this girl comes walking down the street, who actually is there's a band called Nausea, and she was one of the singers for it. In sort of industrial crusty band. And she goes, "Hey, I've been looking for you guys all night long. Here's your money for playing." And we're like, "Well, it's a benefit." She goes, "You were the only out of town band to play, so you guys deserve something." I think it was like $50 or $60. Yeah. But I thought that was crazy cool that we didn't even care about getting paid, and she'd been looking for us all night long. Yeah. That's how awesome. Cool. That's how tight that whole thing is. They'd be looking out for each other. Right.
And then we did play ABC No Rio itself.
That was the last tour.
That was a different tour?
Yeah, that was later on. All right, Dr. Who, hold on. Jumping ahead.
So these tours, you guys were just going out by yourselves, just making phone calls and making the towns, pretty much.
Yeah, that tour for the Pastor
Muppets?
No, the other one.
Sending the Clowns?
The next
Sending
one?
the Clowns.
The other one.
So we had already, at this point, become friends with David Hayes, and he said, "Hey, there's this band called Plaid Retina. We want you guys to hook up with them." So we ended up meeting up with Plaid Retina in
somewhere
Iowa,
in the Midwest
or Minnesota.
Okay,
in Minnesota, and we did about 6 or 7 shows with them.
We were with them for over a week, and it was
okay.
Is that really all it was? It really is.
It seemed longer than that.
It seems like we knew them for a lifetime by the time it was over.
When you guys, they were just. I don't know if you ever experienced this, but sometimes you meet people and like within seconds you feel like you've known them your whole life.
Sure.
Well, that's how it was with us in Plaid Retina. Same sense of humor, same stupidity in the band, and
loved each other's bands. Totally different. They were actually
bands.
Really good.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
But we were all just into each other and couldn't wait to see each other play the next night. And it was.
Wow.
But to back up before we even got to Plaid Retina, we were on our way from New York to Muskegon to play, and
this town comes up a lot. This town I've never heard of. Muskegon.
I don't want to point fingers, but Sean's job was to check the oil in the van every time we stopped because it was an older van. Well, he probably won't admit to this, but what he was accidentally doing was checking the transmission fluid. So if you know anything about engines, to check the transmission fluid, the engine needs to be running and it'll be at the right height. Check the oil, the engine should be off to check the oil. Well, he was checking the transmission fluid every time we stopped. He goes, man, transmission fluid's low. So he kept pouring oil into it.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
So we get this one point, and at one point basically it blew the seals out of the engine because there was too much oil.
Or was that time, or
yes,
when we blew the transmission in Atlanta?
No, that was the first tour.
Okay.
Oh, and incidentally, on the first tour, we blew the transmission, and then the U-joint broke on it in California. Okay, that comes up again later. So we get at Michigan, engine's blown. So we're sitting in Lansing, Michigan. What the fuck are we going to do? We're trying to get to Muskegon, the shows that night. So we call the guys from Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid Kids. They come and pick us up, bring us to the show. So the next day they take us back to Lansing. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do? The guys are working on it like, man, this engine's blown. It's going to take weeks to get another engine for it. So this guy that was at the shop, he goes, hey man, I saw this van down the road for sale. So we go and look at it, and it's for $200.
$200.
And it's rusted the fuck out, man. So we bought it for $200. Took all our shit out of that, took everything out of it, threw it in that van, and went.
We paid $60 to have the rotors turned.
Do we even do that? Okay.
Yeah.
And so there we off again, So we start heading out west, and we hook up with Plaid Retina, and I think at one point we're driving along.
It's rusty. The whole back of it, the floor and everything is rusted out.
Because you know how they put salt on the roads up there.
Yeah, well, it's cold.
The leaf springs of the van broke through the back of it, like rusted through. So there was 2 holes in the back of the van.
We'll take it.
And we didn't know this. We didn't realize this. So we're like going down the road, and you get, if you've ever traveled a lot, you get van crazy. And we thought that's all it was. And we're giggling and laughing at the stupidest shit. And I'm like, I'm getting dizzy, man. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So we finally pull over and we look. And what happened was, not only was the leaf springs pushing through the bottom of the van, but the tailpipe was rusted.
It's
and
right.
It had flipped
Smoke
up.
is billowing up.
And it had flipped up and was going into the van. That's why we're laughing and giggling, because we're gassing ourselves to death.
Yeah.
Black Sheep, when he's like...
Oh, yeah. Officer Mehoff, Jack
Mehoff. So we end up taking a piece of a 4x4 and wiring it there to point. Now the hole's still there, the exhaust pipe is still there, but we're pointing the exhaust pipe slightly further away from the hole.
Yeah, just to hold it down.
A couple professional engineers.
Yes.
So at one
the story's
point,
not over.
I know. So at one point, so we're going down the road, and we're like in this place there's like no trees, like desertish looking, and I'm smelling smoke, and I'm like, something's burning.
And it's a different kind of smoke.
And somebody goes, oh, they're burning trees or something. I'm like,
Sure.
I'm like, I don't see a tree for hundreds of miles, man. It's a fucking desert. What's burning? So we pull over and we look, and that little piece of 2x4 is on fire because we didn't realize that the tailpipe would get hot enough to burn it.
Wow.
That thing was a fucking death trap. But somehow
we drove it from Michigan to California to South Carolina
and back.
Jeez. Yeah, wow.
And then he drove it for a while.
Yeah, we kept it for a while, and then he had to go back up to Michigan to pick up the old van. They put a new engine in it for us.
$200 well spent.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Yeah.
Almost died.
$260. We got the rotors turned for $60.
Oh yeah, $260. My apologies.
Wow.
Man.
So this is kind of where my knowledge of the band really stops. I mean, so what happens next?
So Chris McAllister joined us, and kind of a typical thing, fresh blood in the band, re-inspiring. And unfortunately, we didn't get to record a whole lot, but we did the song that on this Maximum Rock and Roll compilation. He's the bass player on it. The song's called Phoenix, and like I said, that got us so much publicity, man, from especially the West Coast.
And Maximum Rock and Roll, all those each one of those people that we were in contact, they're like, it seemed like it was their mission to help us out.
We got in
that whole San Francisco Berkeley crowd just seems every single person we ever met seemed like seemed like their purpose in life was to help us out.
Yeah, we jived with those guys really well. Yeah. It was like brothers from the opposite coast or whatever. I remember, we said that last tour we stayed at. That's when we stayed at the Maximum Rock and Roll House.
The second tour,
which nobody was allowed to at that point because apparently the Maximum Rock and Roll House had its big basement, and Tim Yohannan, the guy who ran Maximum Rock and Roll, was like the kingpin or whatever. He had a shitload of records from every band you could possibly imagine, and apparently some people had stayed there.
He put green tape on the edges.
Yeah, apparently somebody had stolen some records, and he figured it out, and he couldn't figure out what band did it. So he says, okay, that's it. Nobody else is staying. And he took green tape, this green plastic tape, and put it on all the records. So if you took it and somebody saw it, then you knew it was a Maximum Rock and Roll House record. But but Lance talked them into letting us stay there, which was really neat.
And they had a great setup, and I guess they had done it a lot before, but they had a great setup for people staying. They had, little seats, and you just lift them up, and there's blankets and pillows and all. So apparently they had done it a lot.
Yeah.
It
was definitely
and they had a great setup.
It was definitely
for
a crash pad for traveling bands. So I felt that was kind of an honor for us to be able to stay there. Sure. Nobody was supposed to be staying there.
It was great just talking to the people who did the work on something like Maximum Rock and Roll.
If you ever read Maximum Rock and Roll magazine,
it was like a Bible.
Your hands were black from the ink. Because it was cheap newsprint.
That's how that still was like when towards
Yeah, it was always the same thing. Yeah.
So what happened after that?
Well,
after
what was
that tour?
How was like Myrtle Beach reacting to to the two records at least? And
people always say that you get a better response out of town, but it was great here too.
Yeah,
our
friends were pretty much behind us.
I think we would have accomplished a lot more if we had simply lived somewhere else. But
yeah, a lot of bands will go, hey, let's go where the action is at, and we didn't want to because talking about all those old shows and stuff, this place always had the potential to just blow up to be a Seattle before there was Seattle,
or in Athens,
or whatever. It had such potential to be that mecca, that music mecca, and it never quite.
And there are a lot of factors to that. It's because Myrtle Beach has always had a higher per capita club and band ratio because it's a tourist town, and it had a way outsized number of bands in it. And when you have that, that's how you get that Seattle or Athens or whatever. is just having a massive amount of people coming together, and whether it's coattails or whatever, someone always breaks through, and we never quite had that Myrtle Beach thing where we almost had it a couple times,
especially in the early '90s, which we'll get to.
The '90s were really when Myrtle Beach
really
almost
getting crazy, like how much was happening here, and you're talking about that schedule for Purple Gator and stuff. Yeah. It was amazing, the bands that were coming.
And Squirrel and Drag were always on the verge of being like a huge.
Those are the ones that come up the most, I think.
Squirrel and Drag should have been the bands to really put.
Yeah, we thought they were going to be the ones that in their own genre, in their own subgenres or whatever, were going to be the ones that put Myrtle Beach on the map. And whatever.
It's always interesting. You hear the story about the Drag being like second to Local H
on
the Island
Records
roster. But they still had their big little hit.
They
had a big video or something.
Race cars.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
I went on tour with them as a roadie in '96. But again,
they hit that all at the right time. They did everything right. Just politics of the business.
There it goes.
So what kind of stuff was like transitioning into the 90s as far as Myrtle Beach? What kind of stuff was like crossing over to the new decade as far as like how shows were working? Were there consistent?
Okay, it was always a different venue. We always had a different venue. Most venues, 2 or 3 shows at best. Mm-hmm. There was a place called,
and no venue catered to punk rock.
Yeah, well, that's why there was no one place that would have on an off night, a club would let us play, or your best bet was to find a redneck bar that was not doing too good.
Yes,
and
all they wanted they just needed to sell some beer.
Yeah.
That's all they cared
about. And they
about.
needed to bring in 100 people, 150 people, and sell beer.
And there was a place called Ray's, Third Avenue or something. Third Avenue,
Jerusalem.
North.
Something is it a? It's a
Jerusalem
restaurant now,
Cafe
right?
for a while.
But it was a couple of other things that had names that played off of titties, like melons and.
Yeah.
And
I know what you're talking about.
Was there a place called Xanadu?
That was
that later?
That was a dance club in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was early.
They actually brought bands here early 80s. Yeah. They were bringing like the Romantics and stuff like that.
That was Stars, right?
It was called Stars.
Stars brought the Romantics and all. Yeah.
So the very early 80s.
I tried to get in to see that show, and
they wouldn't let me in either.
No way.
Yeah.
Did you?
They're letting all these girls in with no ID.
You were there?
And then I get up there because I'm like, 17 or whatever. And
I was 17,
sorry, can't come in. I'm like, but that girl, I know she's like 16.
You were there?
Yeah, man. I tried to get in to see the Romantics.
I cannot believe this. Holy fuck.
I just didn't know, like, I've talked to someone who worked at Xanadu, and I didn't know, like, he doesn't have a great memory, and I didn't know. Like,
it was basically a dance club,
right.
And every once in a while they would have bands.
Right.
But
we did in like 83 or something. They had an air guitar contest. We were in that.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
we did Wild Thing by the
X's version of Wild Thing. That's right. Yeah. So it was like a lip sync air guitar thing happening.
Did you win?
Yeah. Some dude doing Rod Stewart won.
Oh shit!
And he won like a trip to California.
What? For an air guitar contest?
It was for some.
Jason did that too. Jason Revis. Remember?
Wow.
Yeah.
Easy to make it back in the day. I don't know.
So the 90s,
but mainly we went to that because they had a ladies' night and we drank for free.
Okay. Yeah, we'd bring all our female friends with us and they'd like pass us the drinks to drink for free. Yeah,
right on. Okay, so
keep us on track.
I'm trying. I'm losing track of myself.
There has to be structure here, and
we straighten things up here. All
this be a 2-parter.
Don't look to us for structure.
We're doing one part.
One long part.
Yeah. So the 90s. I mean, what? Because I can't think of. There's obviously not another Bazooka Joe release.
So we were putting on shows the whole time too, and there were. What other bands were coming along? I'm getting...
That's where it starts getting hazy about 90s.
Yeah. As we enter the 90s, both of our recollections are going to get hazy. The 90s were awesome. They were fun.
Okay.
I know everybody looks back at that 90s music. No, it's good. It's actually good.
That was my hedonistic phase.
So Chris McAllister joins the band. We do another tour, and that was our last real tour.
We did. It wasn't all the way to the West Coast. We did
up and down the East
to
Coast.
Miami, west to Houston.
No, we didn't even go that far.
We didn't go to Houston.
I don't.
We
think
crossed
so.
the Mississippi.
I don't think
right?
so. No, we went as far as New Orleans, I think.
We only went to New
and
Orleans.
then back up to
we
then
barely
to Canada and New York,
and then to Toronto and back. Okay. What?
I think we did.
We went to
That's still a
Toronto.
long
No, I remember that. Yeah, we did. So we did several shows in Canada.
We did 3 weeks and then came here for a week and then went north for 3 weeks.
Yeah. That sounds close enough.
I think that's right.
Okay.
We'll take it.
Okay, so when was the band kind of wrapping up for this?
At the end of that tour,
half,
we called that. I think even the shirt said Detour 90. So
Yeah.
so it would have been 90.
Okay.
And when we got home, I think we did a couple of shows.
As soon as we
after.
got back, I moved in with you because I had left my apartment and my car was there. My car got towed in the parking lot because I don't even remember why. Anyway, we came back and one of your roommates had trashed something,
the house.
and you're like, Darel, you just want to move in with us? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it was just me living there, and that other guy trashed the place. That's what it was. So anyway, he moved in with me, and
Chris McAllister
was already living with me at that time.
The bass player then.
And I think basically, to make a long story short, I think we kind of got a little bit burnt out. I don't think Mark was feeling it at the time.
That's a lot
and
of it.
we should have just gotten together and said, hey man, let's take a breather for a week or two or a month or so, and then we'll get back together. And I think for one reason or another, everybody just kind of.
And I was dating someone, and I ended up moving to Charleston with her because.
Yeah, it's kind of splintered for no particular reason. It just splintered.
Yeah. And nobody got mad at anybody.
And then Mark ended up started a band with Brian McKenzie called Dead Cut Tree.
right?
So that was kind of an official end. There was no okay, we're done. It was just
that was when they started
unfortunately
iGod,
just petered
right?
out.
Wasn't that when they started iGod?
No, iGod was later.
Was it?
Yes, Dead Cut Tree was 90.
Okay.
So Dead Cut Tree ended up having Mark Holt and Sean Shealy playing bass, and Brian McKenzie was a guitar player. A guy named Damon Palemity was a singer. Damon's brother, Michael, which he's going to orgasm right now because I mentioned his name and he loves when people talk about him. Hey, there you go, Mike. He owned a club in Charlotte called.
But he's going to say it's only fair because he mentioned us in his book.
Right.
Oh, well, there you go.
Mike wrote a book called Kill the Music, and he's actually reissuing it with new corrected chapters. Anyway, but he owned a club in Charlotte called 3808, and we played there at least once that I know of.
4808?
But he was a promoter.
3848.
I don't know. It's just numbers, man. I don't know.
I'm going with 48.
Okay. But he started promoting shows in Myrtle Beach as well. He brought Agnostic Front. He would bring Hootie and the Blowfish. He brought White Zombie.
What a collection.
L7.
Was it the same show?
No.
That's crazy.
Testament he brought here.
He had gone to school with Hootie.
He went to school in Charleston,
awesome.
Columbia, and so he knew all those guys. And he did a really good job of bringing bands here.
He did a really good job of promoting
going.
whatever he was promoting.
Okay.
Excellent promoter. Yeah. Corrosion Conformity. He was good friends with those guys as well, and so he kind of stepped up and promoted more shows. We still did.
He was able to look at it. He was able to do what he did and make it sustainable, whereas we were emotional at everything and refused to make money. And
I'll drink to that.
That was a
Yeah, we were still under the punk aesthetic. We're like, let's just charge $3.
and looking back, there's no way to be sustainable like that.
No.
And that's a tough lesson to learn.
That's what I look at that Operation Ivy flyers. God, we could have put $10 on that and still and still got the same amount of people. Shit.
Put a VIP early entry. You know?
So, did you guys play like any other bands in this kind of.
So at that point, he started a band called Strike-O-Matics.
Oh yeah, we
did a show with them.
No, that's after Thunder Pussy.
You were Thunder Pussy too.
Thunder
Okay.
Pussy.
Yeah.
All right, we got other episodes out of this. All right.
That was after
Thunder Pussy was like 94. Strike-O-Matics was 97.
All right, let's back up a little bit then. Shit.
Now, I was gone for a while. I moved to Charleston.
Okay, yeah.
And then I
right.
came back here and was a hermit for a year. So I don't know anything about like
okay, so
92 to 92, 93.
Yeah.
I don't really know anything.
I had tried a couple of times to start bands, and it just didn't feel right, you know. And
Yeah,
so I
'cause
kind
I
of
wasn't
wallowed
there.
around doing
Yeah, I
nothing.
know.
And I started working at Sounds Familiar, and was happy there. And
I vaguely remember Sounds Familiar. I think I went there once when I was 4.
yeah, it closed up in like 2003.
In the what's
It was
now
a
Walmart
fantastic
Plaza.
record store, man.
Yeah.
Everybody there, that's a whole other story, man. Everybody there was fantastic and knew everything about music. Best record store in town ever. But I was going out to Coastal, and I saw this dude walking by with a leather jacket. I was like, hey, what's your name, man? And he goes, Mark. I'm like, I like your leather jacket. He goes, yeah. We started talking about music, and turns out he's a guitar player, moved from San Francisco out here. So, hey, let's get together and just write some songs. He goes, oh, that sounds cool. So we started, it was just me and him for a couple of months, just writing songs in his bedroom. And then, all right, let's do this. And I don't remember who was, there were several different people that passed through the band. And
You had a bass player before I came along.
yeah, there was a couple of
But
people that just didn't work out.
I don't even know. If I ever played
Anyway,
with
the
them.
band turned into Thunder Pussy. And Darel wasn't doing anything. I was like, oh, fuck it, let's ask Darel to sing, you know, what the hell. And I didn't, and you know, be honest with you, I didn't want it to be, we already had Mass Appeal, then we had Bazooka Joe. I'm like, I didn't want it to be the Darel and Darel show again. But then, fuck it. It worked. It worked.
It
It
still
worked
is.
before.
So maybe we should have never.
It worked
not done
before,
that.
so fuck it. So we started up Thunder Pussy, and basically, Thunder Pussy to me was Bazooka Joe with 2 guitar players, and one of the guitar players actually knew how to play. And Mark Horberg was a fantastic guitar. He started off as a blues guitar player, and he started hearing bands like Neurosis and some other punk bands. He's like, what the hell are they doing? He goes, well, fuck it, I'll just speed up these blues licks. and that was his technique of just doing speed metal blues, basically. Speed punk blues.
Incredible.
And that's when things really get hazy.
Yeah.
Mark had stopped drinking.
When did Mark stop drinking?
Before he came here. He wasn't. He wasn't drinking when we met him. But then he got in a band with me and Darel, and then Jason Hearn became the drummer, and then a buddy of ours, Chris Hamby, who was in Ground and Frownies, became the bass player, and we were all very into drinking. We started doing this thing where we do these fake fights on stage, and people would think they were real. And I actually have video of this, like at the after deck. We're like, toward the end of the show,
we were always drunk, and we didn't care if we got hurt, just because it was funny.
It was like
know?
WWE.
We'd throw shit at each other.
As we did was an arm wrestling match. We have a belt for it.
I freaking sliced Jay up.
Oh, y'all
Jay.
Remember that?
Who's Jay? Oh, Jay. God.
Jay, drummer Jay.
A little bit of color.
Jay,
It's just some color.
Jay,
Yeah.
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Jay Rodriguez.
yeah, Jay Rodriguez. I sliced him with a fucking broken bottle.
Jesus
On purpose? Accidentally on purpose?
Accidentally on purpose, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what the fuck I was thinking.
I'd throw my guitar down and tackle him.
All these people showed up for this shit, you know.
Why wouldn't you?
Did you have the show flyer advertised like a wrestling show, it was a fight?
Nope. It was just like whenever I felt like it, I just throw my guitar down and tackle him.
No, it was
He'd throw me back.
It was Jason that I sliced
Jason Hearn.
when he was playing drums.
You'd have
with
to
us.
ask him.
Yeah,
Call him up.
yeah, I
Get
did. Yeah,
So during this time,
it was all in good fun.
During this time,
and we all knew it. He knew it.
That's awesome.
So during this time, there was a club. Some buddies of ours opened up a club called Mr. Yucks. It was located. Do you know where Clockers is out?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it
that's
was
where
right-
everybody gets shot or stabbed.
Right. Well, this is a little bit safer.
is where
This is
There's nothing
safer.
there now.
This place was safer. It was 95 or 94. They opened this club up, and it was right behind Clockers. It's a church now, ironically.
Was it at one point
Oh, the
called
Father's House.
007? I've heard about
Was that the
the-
place in the front? That was not the same.
I don't know.
place.
It was a strip club in front.
That was
at the time.
that was within 500 feet of it. I bet.
It was a
Sorry,
strip club at the time.
I've heard of 007 being located near that place. That was like 2000.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
carry
remember
on.
that, but yeah, they opened up this club called Mr. Yucks, and that was sort of Thunder Pussy's home base. They had a lot of really great bands there: DRI, Machine Head, MXPX.
Oh shit!
Played
Okay.
there.
Buck of Nine.
Nobody knew who they were at the time. I can't even name.
Lots of
I
local
can't-
shows.
but it was whenever there was shows there, it was packed. L.A. Guns played there, as a matter of
Oh,
fact.
right on. Yeah.
But it was mainly a place of debauchery.
Yeah, it was. There was. You didn't leave there sober ever, and you usually crawled out the door.
Eh.
And I'm spacing out. We're talking Mr. Yucks. Hold on a second. Let me have this Jack Daniel.
You're gonna have to be my memory for Mr. Yucks. I mean,
I know.
Throw a couple
As I
of
say,
things
I've
in,
always
but-
referred to those years as the gray years. Say 93 to 96.
Sure.
I know it happened. I remember things that happened, but what time it happened.
You were there, but you weren't there.
It's back and forth, back and
Okay, well,
forth.
what
I mean,
about
I love talking about it, though. I want to figure it out.
what about Strike-O-Matics? Was that
So Strike-O-Matics was
Well, we've got to go back a little bit. There's
Okay.
still some things that happen.
yeah.
So one of the biggest shows we did at Mr. Yucks, and this was pure genius on our part, by the way.
Okay.
We put out a 7-inch.
Oh,
Find that 7-inch. It's in there somewhere. It was called Behind the Screen Door, and it was all Myrtle Beach bands.
Oh, I have that.
Okay.
I have that. It's Thunder Pussy, I God, and two other bands.
Squirrel and,
and
Ground.
Ground.
all the bands
Okay.
that were. That's pretty much everybody that was.
These
in
were the
existence.
bands who were there. Were not to discount any
Yeah,
other
there it
bands.
is.
Oh,
Yeah.
Concrete Face Dance. Those
Concrete
guys
Face
were
Dance,
amazing.
Okay. I have this because my uncle and
Not
my
to
dad
discount
both
any
had
other bands around at that time, but these were kind of the main bands, and our intention was to do
Yeah.
a second one with the other bands.
Yeah, this
and
was
it just
supposed to
never came about.
Follow up with.
But
That's sick.
One of the biggest, and Squirrel was at that time was, really
That was the band.
Really,
Yeah.
those
heard so
guys.
much about Squirrel.
Those guys had it, and so we put them as the headliner.
We played with
and
Squirrel.
what we did is
We did play with Squirrel and Track-O-Matics at one point in our early band.
So we put this record out, and we had a release show for it. So all 5 of the bands played, and we charged, I think, $6 at the door.
no. We charged $10.
Was it okay?
Gotta get the money.
But
Which was more
but with that
reasonable then,
$10,
but-
with that $10, you got the record too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, right
So,
on.
so
that's
that
awesome.
paid
So
for
basically,
the
we
record.
forced people to buy the record.
Yeah.
Whether they wanted it or not.
Whether they
And I
wanted it
think
or
this
not.
is how we should do. Everybody should have done everything ever since then.
I got the idea from Prince. He did that. he released one of his albums. When you bought the ticket for his show, you got the CD
Yeah.
to go along with
But
it.
it was great. Nobody flinched. Everybody was happy
Yeah.
to pay a few bucks extra and get a record.
Yeah.
And plus, they felt like they were a part of it, and they were, because it's pitching into your own scene to put out a record. I mean, because again, this is something nobody made a dime off of.
True.
So
But, and
I
every
would
band
suggest
got a few-
anybody doing
got a
shows,
few records,
if you've got a
and-
record out, do it that way.
And then, of
charge
course,
a little bit more and give them the record.
Next Winley show,
It was-
let's get a CD.
It was
whether they
great.
want it
That
or not.
really, I mean, it was genius.
Thank you.
Oh, there's
Thank you
a
very much.
poster in there? I've never opened it.
And every band submitted a thing for the poster.
So that was probably the biggest show there. I mean, it was wall to wall, shoulder to shoulder for sure for that show. And we were spending quite a bit of money on this recording. I'm like, it was getting ridiculous, and it wasn't flowing the way it should have. And Darel disappeared for a while. We don't know what happened to him. We finally gave up on him. Like, you know what? Fuck it.
I don't know how. I don't.
Yeah, I don't
really
remember
understand.
either, but
I went up to New York. My
Yeah.
girlfriend had gone up to back home. She'd moved down here to try to get clean, and when she couldn't, she went back up there to try to get clean. And I went up to see her for a couple of weeks. Maybe that was something to do with that. I don't know.
Well, we couldn't find you, so we gave up on you. So I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just whatever he didn't sing, I'll finish singing. So just wanted to get this recording done. We wanted to get something out so bad. So we go back and listen to the. We dropped all the music out just to hear the vocals. And he was literally mumbling. He wasn't even saying anything. Like, what the fuck?
I didn't know the words.
Some of it was. Some of it he was actually singing. But most of it was like, he's not fucking saying anything. God damn it. So I had to go back and rewrite some of his lyrics. And then go back in and re-sing them, which I liked his singing much better than mine. But I had to do something. And he sings on this record, this Behind the Screen Door. That's him. Brian McKenzie recorded that, so it wasn't me. Those recordings have never come out. I have them, but they've not come out. But our last show was opening for DRI at Mr. Yuck's, and it went really, really well. So I'm okay, I can do this, because I had to sing and play guitar at the same time. And the songs I couldn't sing and play guitar at the same time, I just put the guitar down, because Mark was such a good guitar player. I could just count on him. Fuck it. Yeah. And after that, shortly.
You know what? I had been gone. I was in New York, not city, in Rochester, and I came back one time.
You were back for that show.
I came back, and my little sister, of all people, said, I heard y'all are playing tonight. I'm like, what? So I showed up, and I didn't know we were playing tonight.
I see him after we play. I'm like, where the fuck have you been, man?
No, I sang the night that I came back.
Not for DRI, you didn't?
No, I don't know about DRI. I don't remember. I wasn't there for DRI.
Yes.
I wasn't there for DRI.
Yes, he was.
I don't remember DRI.
I talked to you after the show. Because I yelled at you. I go, where the fuck have you been, man?
Maybe I didn't know you played.
It's possible.
That has to be it. I didn't know you played.
So that was Thunder Pussy's last show. And so the Drag was getting ready to do a tour, a promotional tour. They'd got signed to Island Records, and they asked me to go along with them as a roadie. I was like, hell yeah, it was pretty good money. I'm like, I can come back and actually have some money for a change. So I worked at Sounds Familiar, which you made no money, basically. I had enough to pay rent and have some beers. So when I get back, I call up Jason and Chris from the rhythm section for Thunder Pussy. I was like, hey, let's get together and practice. They're like, yeah, we don't want to do this with Mark anymore, because he was so erratic. So yeah, we can't play with Mark anymore. I'm like, well, let's give him one more chance. Like, nope, we're done. I'm like, oh fuck, that was the end of Thunder Pussy.
So during this time, you were still promoting shows.
Yeah, and just to back up just a little bit. There were several places that I wanted to definitely talk about. There was a place called Scuttles. If you know where Atlas is at.
Yeah. It was
it's an empty lot there now, I believe. If I'm not, is there still an empty lot there?
I don't know. There's probably some
anyway,
resort there now.
There was a place called Scuttles. And at one time it was a bar that had a fish tank wrapped around the whole place, and they had sharks and stuff.
Live sharks on the marquee.
Yeah. And we'd have bands play there. Plaid Retina, Schlong.
Plaid Retina?
Awesome.
Plaid Retina played there. Schlong. Thunder Pussy played there. I was hoping you would help me remember.
The Undecided. You mean local bands or
just
touring
anybody?
bands?
Anybody. It was
the Undecided played there.
I forgot about the Undecided. Thank you for that.
Do you know the Undecided? Another local band.
Sure, yeah.
They didn't play. They weren't around for all that long.
I don't think they recorded anything.
I don't think they did either.
Pete Paredes was.
Pete Paredes sang. Jay Rodriguez on drums.
That's right. I forgot about that. Anyway, it was a really cool bar. Great hangout. They'd let anytime we wanted to do a band, they'd even ask, yeah, go ahead, do it.
The greatest show was Schlong, though. I think.
Schlong.
Were they local? Were they out of town?
No.
Dave Mello from Operation Ivy. It was his new band.
Him and his brother. He and his brother.
Yeah.
Had that band.
That's amazing.
Dave, I think Pete was his band. Pat Mello. That's what his name was.
Okay.
So yeah, Dave Schlong.
Dave
I think he went by Dave Schlong, didn't he?
It was like the Ramones. Their last name was all Schlong.
Yeah.
Right?
But that was a great place to play, and Fallout Shelter.
Oh God, yes.
There was a place called the Fallout Shelter. It was like they had like a caged off dance floor. We had
at 714.
Yeah, right behind where Kilgore Trout used to be a couple of years ago. Right next door to it, as a matter of fact.
By like where Star Music was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Behind
Right
that.
Yeah.
Screeching Weasel, Schism. If there's an amazing band that was from Columbia, very influential, hardly known, but a lot of crust punk.
Anti-schism.
Anti-schism. Sorry. Anti-schism. Very well. It's like they're legendary, but didn't have a whole lot of output.
But in some circles, they're real. I mean, people know about them all over the freaking world.
My son came up to me because there's a band from Columbia called Anti-Schism. I'm like, oh, how the fuck do you know who they are, man? They didn't. I think they put out one cassette, as far as I know.
No, they
did. They have several things out. I never saw that. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't know, but we were good friends with them.
You know what I feel really bad about?
They became legendary underground. You know?
Okay.
I've seen their names on.
That's legendary in its own right. Honestly.
Someone keeps an archive of the Columbia shows.
Is that Columbia Salad Days or
Yeah,
something?
and
They follow us on
what
Instagram.
is that?
Columbia, it's like hardcore Columbia Salad Days.
Let me know later what that is.
Okay, it's like on Facebook.
Yeah, it's like an Instagram
I missed that
page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good that somebody's.
I saw
keeping
the
that
singer, Scott, right?
Scott.
I saw
Scott
him
was a drummer.
at the.
His girlfriend.
He
was
also
a singer.
sang.
Oh, they were both singers. His girlfriend was a singer too. Sorry about that.
His girl, but I saw him at what was the show at the football field?
Oh, the Lollapalooza.
The
Warped Tour?
Warped Tour.
I saw the flyer for that. I was at my uncle's house. We were cleaning up, and he has the flyer from the Warped Tour in '95.
Yeah, 95.
Yeah. Squirrel played that. I know that.
Squirrel played, and we did too.
Well,
sort of.
The very first Warped Tour came to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, I took a picture of it.
And they played at
of the flyer.
Yeah, I got a picture of the flyer.
Okay.
And it was at the Myrtle Beach,
the Doug
High
Shaw
School
Stadium.
At Doug Shaw Stadium.
Which is insane.
Was it, Sublime played. Nobody knew who Sublime was.
Sublime, L7, Quicksand, No Use for a Name. Those are off the top of my head. Let me find the flyer.
Swinging Utters.
Swinging Utters on side stage,
Where the fuck is this? I just took the picture like 2 days ago.
And Squirrel played it. And then Chris Fry said, hey, man, I want Bazooka Joe to play. I'm like, well, we haven't played together. He goes, well, how about I just want to do one Bazooka Joe song. And he wanted to do Evolution off our first record. So he invited me, Darel, and Mark to get up there and play. And so we took over the guitar.
We played during Squirrel's set.
Yeah, we played during the middle of Squirrel's set.
I found it.
And so we did Evolution. So Bazooka
Sick of it
Joe.
all.
Sick of it all. Orange 9mm, Fluff, Seaweed, Tilt, Sieve, Red 5, Squirrel, Wizo, Swingin' Utters, you already mentioned. And then widest variety of ethnic foods. That's on the flyer. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, that might not be a band, but that's a good name for it.
It will be.
But yeah, Bazooka Joe actually played the first Warped Tour.
There you go.
One song.
On somebody else's ticket.
We thought somebody else's on somebody else's set.
Yeah, I've got a picture of the flyer. I will pass my phone.
Yeah, man. Wow, I haven't seen this since it happened.
Yeah,
Holy
I don't know if I've
shit.
ever seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We played with Quicksand too.
Quicksand,
on that third
L7,
tour.
No Use for a Name.
we played with Quicksand down in Florida.
Like 3 shows. I don't know if we ever.
It was supposed to be 3 shows. We played Hollywood,
Here,
Florida
I
with Quicksand, the first show. The next show was in Tampa, and all the bands got wrong directions. It was all supposed to be basically the same bands. All the bands got bad directions. Quicksand got there first, and by the time we got there, Quicksand was ending their set, and so we couldn't go on. And then the next night, Quicksand we were supposed to be in Melbourne, Florida. We played, but Quicksand got bad directions. They showed up right after the show. So we only ended up doing one show with Quicksand.
Oh,
But
wow.
we ended up getting their CDs though, and we played it the whole rest of the tour.
Man, we played it over and over and over. It was an EP. It was our first EP.
Yeah, it was an EP CD. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, kids, is before Waze.
Cool.
So.
Send that to me sometime. Man.
Yeah. I'll once we finish recording.
Okay.
I've got a couple. I've got this flyer and another flyer. I was cleaning out our old house the other day.
Yeah, I never even saw the flyer.
Yeah.
So what were some of the other places? There was the Fallout Shelter. That had
The Fallout Shelter was, in my mind, was one of the most important of that.
It was
Right.
because it was off the beaten path. It wasn't in a shopping center or anything, and so it was like.
And they would just let
You
us
had
do
to
whatever
know-
we wanted
you
to
had to
do, and
know
we could
about
get
it.
away with.
Still mid-90s at this point.
This would
No.
have been
This
90.
we have to backtrack. This would have been like
This is still Bazooka Joe.
89,
shit, okay.
89 90.
90, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, 'cause
But it's just that we had forgotten the Fallout Shelter, and you can't forget the Fallout Shelter.
Yeah, and it was
what
great.
What it was originally was the owner and his wife, which was a marriage of convenience.
Okay.
He wanted to open a
For
gay
the tax
bar,
benefits.
and he tried to open a gay bar,
And this is the beginning of techno. too.
and he just wasn't making money. And so I don't even know how we realized we could do shows there.
Just ask, just like every other place. Like, hey,
anyway,
want a band to play?
But he was trying to open a gay bar, wasn't drawing a crowd. Maybe we went there one night or something. Maybe somebody went there and told us we could. Anyway, we ended up doing shows there, a lot of shows there,
Yeah.
and then other people ended up doing shows there, reggae bands and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
remember that.
and it worked out really well. They were great to us.
And nobody
it
ever
was-
fucked with us there.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
the police
awesome.
never fucked with us. Nobody complained about the noise or anything. That was a good spot. But of
It
course,
was.
just like all good places, they
Come to an end.
yeah,
Screeching halt.
not
And,
quite enough money to pay the rent.
But the guy ended up. He wanted a gay bar. That was his dream, right? Was to have a gay bar, and
What kind
It-
of bar did you want?
one of them
Gay
gay
bar?
The
bars.
same thing that Andrew wants. For his.
The same thing. It's what we all want, right?
shared dream.
It's what we all want.
Well, you know, in the '70s when the Sex Pistols, the punk bands were getting started, nobody would have anything to do with any of the punk bands there. So they would go to reggae and gay bars, and they would
Yeah.
let them play and hang out. So it's like it's the misfits
Yeah.
of the world
Right.
but
Everyone
looking out for each other.
Yeah.
the owner realized that his dream was not just to have a bar. He really did want a gay bar. Yeah,
What kind of bar?
Well, I told you, one of them gay bars, boy. but he was not getting what he wanted.
Yeah.
He was he
Just a regular bar.
A straight bar.
he had gotten one of them straight bars. You know.
I think they had their nights though. I mean, it was mixed,
Yeah, but
right?
I do know that.
But
he
I
had-
know it was like kind of the
I
beginning.
do know
of
that
the-
he was disappointed.
It was
because
still
he
called
wasn't-
techno and rave back then, and they would have those nights.
Okay.
And then eventually there became another place at Village Square Shopping Center called Club Zero, which was a bigger version of the Fallout Shelter. And mostly techno most nights, but they ended up opening a back room where they would have bands play. I don't remember all the bands that played there, but I do remember the Drag playing there and a band
And
from
oh shit,
Squirrel probably played there, I'm sure.
So, what's the time frame for slowing down on promoting shows?
Around 96.
Okay.
there were a couple more, and then, but yeah, we were pretty much out of it, jaded, doing other things.
Yeah, I like I said, I had gone on tour after that DRI show. I had gone on tour with the Drag as a roadie, and when I came back, I was working at Sounds Familiar at the time, and I was like, hey Jeff, I'm back. Jeff Roberts was the owner of Sounds Familiar, and probably one of the greatest human beings I've ever met in my life. But I say, hey, Jeff, I'm back. Can we put me back on the schedule? He goes, yeah, I got enough people. So he was kind of pissed that I took off for a month or so.
Sure.
and which was actually a blessing, because I turned around and I'm like, what am I going to do? And a friend of mine said, well, they need a DJ up at the Crazy Horse. I'm like, all right, I'll go do that. So as a job for the last
Forever,
20,
seems like.
28 years off and on, I've been
God,
a
has
DJ
it
at strip
been?
clubs. Yeah. Except for the time I was with
28 years of titties.
Except for the time I was with Independence.
That's a lot of titties.
That's a bunch of titties.
So that's kind of
titties have come and gone.
Yeah.
Risen,
Titties-
fallen,
titties
expanded,
come and go,
deflated.
everybody asks me like, you ever get tired of it? Like, you get used to it, you don't get tired of it.
It's always great, but you're never like, hey, hell yeah.
It's like pizza, you know.
It's never bad.
So yeah, I started DJing at Derriere's, and I didn't, I was doing DJing there 5 or 6 nights a week, so I didn't have time for anything else. And after a couple of years, he was. No, you hadn't gone to Ohio yet. What were you?
I went to Ohio in 2000.
Oh, what the fuck are you doing in '96?
In 96.
Oh, Strike-O-Matics.
Strike-O-Matics, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had moved in about, about 96 or 97. 96, I moved in with Sean, Bazooka Joe's original bass player. And drinking a lot.
Hell yeah.
Abandoned is inevitable, right? So we were just hanging out in a warehouse drinking, and
you started a band called Strike-O-Matics.
and somehow a band called Strike-O-Matics happened. Other people were practicing next door. They came over, joined the band.
The original version of Strike-O-Matics was more of a ska,
but it was a punk band,
punk ska.
but it was a ska band. But originally it was me and Sean and Joey Skipper. Sean was playing guitar and Joey was playing bass. We didn't have a drummer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was
See, I'm learning shit
yeah.
too.
And well, we had a drummer, but he stole my PA. And he pawned my shit at Dick's Pawn Shop. I'm naming names. He pawned my shit at Dick's Pawn Shop. Sean saw it one night. I went up there that night. They were closing. They told me to come back the next morning. They would call the police and we'd get it all straightened out. I went the next morning. Dick's fucking pawn shop had taken my shit, moved it away, and said they didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. Fuck Dick's Pawn Shop.
What a
Those
bunch of
fucking
dicks.
They don't have a jingle. That's a local reference for anybody.
Okay, so when did you start with the Independence then?
That would have been
About the same time.
So I was
Because you came over and you borrowed a CD from me so you could learn the songs.
what?
Where Sean and I were living, you asked me if you could. You did. I remember this.
It's
true.
dreaming, dude. There's no fucking way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure of it.
Well, all right. I was DJing at Derriere's from 96 to 97. And the end of 97, I'd known Evil and Will for years and loved the Independents. Absolutely fucking loved them. And they said, man, Steve Stone, the guitar player, keyboard player.
Had you already
quit.
roaded for him before? You roaded for him before?
Yeah. Actually, I did. They had a short tour with the Ramones, and I went on that tour with them.
That was going to lead me to my next question.
Yeah,
because I know y'all worked
that's
with
when I
Joey
first
Ramone.
met Joey one-on-one with the Ramones and CJ and they had a short tour with the Ramones, and I went with them as a roadie on that. And then, ironically, their last tour with the Ramones was one town over from the Drag's first show of their tour that I was roadieing for. So I just jumped with them and went on tour with the Drag, which was fucking amazing as well. But that's a whole other story, man. We should get the fucking Drag in here to talk, man. I want to be on that.
I might have a connect. I do know.
Well, Trey and Billy are still in town.
I know a family member of the Drag, but he is 16 years old.
Oh man.
And I don't know if this podcast
guys-
is supposed to just focus on punk rock or not.
For whatever it is.
But the Drag is a part of the same.
Yeah,
They might not be punk rock, but they're
their style was so
definitely a part of
different than ours, but
the
man,
punk rock scene.
We
in
felt
Myrtle
that
Beach. As far
these
as
guys
Myrtle
were
Beach
punks.
goes.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe they wouldn't be in some other town.
Everybody knew everybody, and they were kind of on the Brit pop side.
They're
right?
absolutely
Yeah.
that. But
I dig them. I've listened to them too. I think they're sick.
I listen to Satellites beaming back at you all the time, and it's still to this day is amazing fucking record. So props to those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I went on tour with them. And that's when I got back in after that tour. And
they were always supportive of all the They were very supportive of all the punk rock bands in town too.
Yeah, it seems like if you're in such a small town, like everybody's got to support everybody. Like
you should, man.
You're all doing the same sort of thing. Like no matter what kind of music you're playing, like you're all doing the same thing out of the same passion.
This town is too small.
That's always been one of the points of pride.
And if you're not working, and if you have some time, if you have the time, go just stand there, drink
everybody
your fucking
love
beer,
everybody,
and keep just be a warm body for the other bands, because hopefully they'll return the favor and oh wow, look at how big this crowd is,
What is it like? The rising tide lifts all ships.
What was the question, Andrew? I forgot what the question was.
You playing with the Independents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Steve Stone quits, and Chris, I'm sorry, a guy named Evil calls me. Evil Presley, the singer, calls me up and says, "Hey man, can you play keyboards?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I took piano lessons when I was like 12." He goes, "Well, how about if Will shows you the keyboard parts and you play guitar too?" And I'm like, "All right, let me give it a shot." So I hooked it with Will a couple of nights in a row, and he showed me all the parts. Like, all right, I'll do this. And
you changed your name, put on a tuxedo shirt, and you're in.
Quit the best paying job I'd ever had in my life. There was never a time I'd had more than $1,000 in my bank, and here I've got quite a few bucks in my bank account. And I threw that all away to travel with the Independents. That's how much I love them and how much I love being on the road in general. And man, that was an amazing 6 years I was with them. Ups and downs were fucking great. Doesn't matter. Yeah. The pissy times, the sleeping on the hardwood floors, I didn't give a shit.
And then your last year or so, I was roadie.
Yeah, he came on a tour with us as a roadie.
And then I roaded for a little while longer after you.
Yeah, Michael Wood came on the road on the road with us as a roadie, which was a fantastic time.
Actually, as far as bass players and drummers for the Independents, were there any drummers or bass players in South Carolina that didn't play with them at some point? They pretty much took. They've been through pretty much every drummer and bass player.
Yeah, well, I mean, being on the road's hard. It's not. You can't be a homebody. You can't be. I want my bed.
Yeah,
and they go on long tours too.
And
they're doing.
And there's going to be boring ass times. There's going to be shitty times. There's going to be people fighting with each other, yelling at each other. Hell, me and Chris, are been buds since 1990. And we kind of got in each other's face a couple of times, Yeah. Evil as well. But in the end, we realized we were, going after one goal. So fuck it.
All right.
Put it.
So, am I missing anything before we get to? Because Bazooka Joe reunited.
So we've done somewhere in there we had done a couple of
in the 90s
spaces of
in the 90s we did a couple of reunion shows. Well, a friend of ours, Jennifer, got killed, and so all the bands got together and did a reunion show, or not a tribute show, a memorial show for her. Yeah. So that was sort of a kickoff. Like, hey, let's do a few more shows. So we did a few shows in the early 90s.
When was it?
That would have been 94, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. 93.
94, we were in Thunder Pussy. It was before we were in Thunder Pussy,
93.
Right?
93 or 94. Okay.
After I was back from Charleston, so that would have probably been 93.
And then we did a 10-year anniversary show, and the shirt, we only did one show, and the shirt said Tour 97. It just had one show listed. Surfside Bowling Alley.
You could have had a bunch of other dates on there that said TBA.
Yep, just one show.
TBA. All the way down.
And I never really expected to do it again. And then I guess my time at the end of Independence was my son was going to be born, and I'm like, and I told the guys at the band, I said, listen, I just need a couple of months off from tour, because the Independents were on the road like 8 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And not consecutively, but broken up. And I said, listen, man, I just need about 2 or 3 months before the kid is born and after the kid is born, and then we'll go back out on the road. Like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. And then as soon as my son was born, I was like, I can't leave. There's no fucking way. So I called him evil and I go, hey man, I think I'm going to take some more time off. He goes, it's all right. We already booked a tour without you.
Shit.
We knew you weren't going to go anywhere. We're like, fuck, you know me too well, man. And so I said, well, just, keep my spot open. And I want to come back. I want to keep doing it. But it never, there's no way I'm leaving that kid. There's no way. Sure. And they continued on without the keyboard player or second guitar player, which was fine for them. It worked. So we were just talking about, while we were off air during a commercial, we were talking about Operation Ivy getting shocked on stage at the Castaways. Well, we were playing in New Orleans one time, Bazooka Joe, and
it was in Metairie, outside of New Orleans.
Fat City is what it was known as, and
home of David Duke.
Do
you know who David Duke is?
Yeah.
Give that guy any.
He was running for president at the time, and it was amazing how many freaking signs you would see up in yards for that freaking white supremacist.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It doesn't mirror anything that's happening right now.
Nope, not at all.
Not one bit does that mirror anything.
So we were on stage and
it was surprising at the time.
I think something happened to either Mark's drums or Sean's bass, and they were fucking with it at the time. And I was like, and it was like totally quiet. I'm like, Darel, say something to this crowd or something. He goes, you say something. He's coming after me with the mic and he's shoving it in my face and it's like zap, zap, zap.
I knew
zap.
what I was doing.
And I'm backing up. And I'm backing up like, stop, man, stop. And
I couldn't stop myself.
And it hurt. And I'm like, it was like, I could see sparks coming out. And I'm
I
like,
could
stop,
too.
man. And so I'm like,
it was funny.
So I'm like, the only thing I could do was punch him. so I fucking swung back and punched him. He goes, what the fuck did you do that for, man? I'm like, quit shocking me, man.
I wasn't mad that you were punching me. I was mad that you were punching me like a girl.
Well, here, let me show you how I punch you, motherfucker.
Punch me like an old man.
So I'm gonna jump way ahead because I still want to get through those records you have.
Okay.
In case you have any stories for any of them, I'm gonna jump way ahead to more recently. You guys playing at the Brick House and becoming more active again. So how?
So jumping forward, we got back together. The original band started doing a bunch of shows between 2005 and 2010 somewhere. And we were rolling pretty good, had a whole bunch of new songs, and then all of a sudden just stopped. There was no reason. It's like nobody ever called and said, hey, we got to practice tonight. It just never happened again. So it died for no reason.
We played that thing at Drink.
We did the Legends of Punk Rock at Drink.
No, I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking about the thing that Joey had been doing at the Rockin' Reunion or something. He had done it before.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was in 2010, and then Chris did the other thing. These were two separate things.
Right. We played several times at Drink. And after that, it just kind of stopped. There's no real reason. So fast forward to now, what he was talking.
We played 2014 or 2013 in Merle's Inlet.
Did we?
Yep.
Oh.
It was a benefit.
Oh, at Rockin' Hard.
Yeah.
That's right. That Surf Rider benefit.
And then we played with the Independents in...
You're right. I forgot
twice.
About that as well.
We played twice in 2014 with the Independents in Mount Pleasant, and then at Pirates Cove.
Forgot about that.
And then that was it.
Yeah. Pirates Cove. Then it just kind of stopped for no particular reason. It just
life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way. Exactly. That's what I always say. It's really weird. All of us actually said the words like, I'm really busy with this and this and this and this and this. Let's. But so yeah, more recently, my son had started really cool things. My son had started a band with Sean's daughter, his daughter Molly on bass and River playing guitar. The Corrupt Faith.
And you're listening.
They started off. They started off
right?
as Circuit.
You know them, yeah. Circuit. AKA Corrupt Fate.
Yeah, they start off as Circuit.
AKA probably 3 or 4 other bands by now, because I see them post all the time about, hey, my band's playing this. I'm like, I don't know that fucking band.
Yeah. Well, I know River's got 2 bands. Yeah. One's, and Molly's in both of them. If I'm not mistaken, Molly's in both of them.
I know they like based themselves out of Charlotte now.
Well, most everybody in the band is from Charlotte. River's still living here.
Okay. Yeah,
going back and forth.
We saw Corrupt Faith recently at the skate shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we despise them. We hate them. We think they are horrible people because of this awful music they're playing. We do not believe it. They have to rebuild, dude. We have to give them something to rebuild.
Shout out Corrupt Faith.
They ain't nothing but the devil's music.
It's the devil's music.
They probably think our band sucks, honestly. These fucking 27-year-olds trying to play what they call punk rock. Fuck these guys.
A bunch of old fuckers.
I remember when they were Circuit the first time at
that blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, it blew my mind.
That blew my mind.
Dude,
I can't believe that they're actually this cool band. They're like it's like his son and shit, and I'm like it usually doesn't go like.
We did a punk band like them when we were 14 and no one gave a fuck. And then, no, you came to our show at Brick House the week before the Corrupt Faith Circuit show. And you saw I had 2 bands playing that night. And we were like, oh shit, there's like 90 people here. That's crazy. And then the next week, they played at Fresh Brewed, and there was 150. I was like, where did these people come from?
So I was like going, oh my god, this is gonna build.
It was so inspiring for me and everybody really that like had booked here in the past. We were like, oh shit, it's like a thing that people want. We need to capture lightning in the bottle right now. So
it can go. It can die quick if you don't keep it going. And we're still kind of waiting.
Punk rock is like democracy. You have to nurture that motherfucker.
Yeah, it's like, and like you said, it's absolutely in waves. Like if you don't capture that and notice that people give a shit right now, they will stop. So we were like, all right, what do we do? Flyers all the time, no matter what.
Yeah,
it's we gotta do everything we can to keep these people in the game. All right,
I loved the fact that Molly and River have this band started. They started in my living room a couple of years ago, and it died for a bit. They like kind of gave up on it, and then they saw this band called Billy Bats and the Made Men. Those guys are exhausting. They play songs back to back nonstop for like 45 minutes to an hour.
I saw a video of them. They're fucking crazy. They're playing punk rock bowling with like they're playing with
HR. They play with HR.
They play with HR.
Queers.
Recently.
They tour with the Queers.
Fear. They're playing with everybody.
And Joe Queer actually produced their last album.
That's insane. I don't know who the main people are. I just know Noel.
But we were at there was a punk fest in Timmonsville, South Carolina, at a racetrack, and we saw them play in there. And I was standing back watching River and Molly stand next to each other. They were watching them play. They started whispering to each other. At this point, they kind of let their band go by the wayside. And I saw them looking at each other and whispering like, "Oh man, they're going to get it back together." Sure enough, that's what ignited them again, and they've been nonstop since.
Yeah,
and
they're fucking killing it. I see them on,
and they've got such energy, man, and
dude,
just there's like a understated anger about their music, and they're the nicest fucking people.
They have laid back
cool
anger.
As shit. Yeah, laid back anger. I like that. That's good, and all their and they're all the whole band and all their friends always stay at my house whenever they're in town, and they're the fucking coolest kids, man.
They're the future.
I don't know, kids. They're all in their 20s now. I shouldn't say that, but they're the greatest people, man.
Even
I love
to
them.
me, they're kids because I'm like, but like still, they're the fucking future. Like that's why we like started, trying to give more of a shit about our scene here. But like,
when is this coming out, by the way?
I don't know. It's up to this guy.
Chuck's thing isn't even out yet, is it?
His episode's probably out, and he promoted his show that is way long gone. So
I'm just happy you guys are doing this. This is fucking. I'm glad this exists for Myrtle Beach. Thank you. I mean,
we decided to have a goal of like, let's like talk to the people that are responsible for why we do this thing, honestly.
That was the reason I was excited because I remember your dad was on here and he hit a lot of good points. I'm like, oh, he missed some things though, but I want to add in there. And I remember your dad from back in the day. And then Michael was on here, and that's the thing is when we stopped doing things, when we started slowing down and doing other things, Michael Wood picked up the torch and ran with it.
That's a good. About the time when you were getting up to those late '90s, and talking about when we were like stopping doing stuff, and it was like right then became the Michael Wood era.
It was the Michael Wood show.
He was right there.
Hey, look.
I remember it was like 97.
Look, Michael Wood took a shit on the stage. That's amazing.
Was 97 the Hall Monitors? Was that when?
About 97 was the Hall Monitors.
When he turned 21. He turned 21 on stage. There. He drank his first beer. At Candlelight 2.
I remember, at Candlelight. I remember that, and I talk with Michael about this all the time. I'm like, man, the Hall Monitors. When I saw you guys, it was like, oh, these guys are so bad, they're good. And one of my favorite things was Michael was on stage playing bass, and he didn't even know how to tune the bass. So in between songs, the guitar player had to lean over and tune his bass for him.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, this is fucking amazing.
There are some bands that are fucking just not good, and like all of our bands, but all of our bands that were not good, but there was something.
You could be charming and not good.
But we were charming. and
but you guys were fucking awesome.
Well,
Not to,
but that was the Hall Monitors had that thing.
They had this charm about it.
They had that.
And the thing is, I remember like going, just always thinking, oh my God, they were so bad, they were good. But then I have a CD which I don't think they've ever put out.
They weren't actually bad.
It was just live. It was sloppy and chaotic. But if you listen to the CD, and hopefully Michael will put it out one day, it's actually as good, if not better, than anything out. It's like they were ahead of their time, sort of. Yeah. It's fucking good shit.
I'm still listening.
But they were just so inexperienced. They were so inexperienced about what they were doing that it's like that was the charm about it,
So let's bring it into like more recent stuff. You guys played Brick House. Was that last year?
Last year, year before.
Yeah,
it's
a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Derelict. You have your record store.
Yeah. So the Brick House show was originally Michael Wood's idea to have a bunch of bands who hadn't played in a long time get back together and play, which was huge success
for all of our own amusement, basically.
Well, and our own egos, or as it were. Unfortunately, we didn't have. We had a different first Bazooka Joe. We had a different drummer and bass player. Jason Hearn from Thunder Pussy played with us, which I fucking love playing with Jason. And of course, Brian McKenzie was playing bass for us. The other guys had other things going on, so we just had to go with whatever, and it worked out great. And it was my first opportunity to play with my son's band, which was fucking magical.
And the cool thing, that gives me a thrill too.
Yeah. You know what I loved? Like we were playing, what's the first song we used?
We Are Everywhere.
We Are Everywhere. We started playing We Are Everywhere, and I go to sing the backups on it, and River jumps up on stage and shoves me out of the way, and just he doesn't even go to sing, he just shoved me out of the way to jump off stage. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, man.
Oh, that's great. Your son is more of a badass than you. That's awesome. I mean, that's what a father wants, I imagine.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And man, all the bands were so good that night, man.
I loved that.
Scott Brand, it was so good to see. It was so good to see something about vampires and sluts.
The slobs
and the slobs, and
and the crowd, all the people in the crowd you don't see all together at one time.
I love the Brick House. Unfortunately, the place is so big.
You could
have 200 people there and it still look like it's 20 people. It needs to be a little more compact, but it's still a great venue, and Scott Hyman does a great job running sound there for everybody.
It was a cold call.
You
for
know,
me to
shout
start
out to
booking
the
there
fucking
again.
sound guys of Myrtle Beach. You know, fucking hell, man. What?
I forgot about the Nantucket show.
Oh shit! I bring up
This is-
sound guys into fucking
Okay, this is the,
Okay.
How long have we been doing this?
Nearly 4 hours.
Holy shit!
We've been here for a
Okay,
day.
okay. This is fucking funny. This would have been about '89, I think, and we get a call from I forget who we get the call from. Like, hey, you guys want to open for Nantucket? Are you familiar with Nantucket?
I'm not. No.
I thought you were talking about a
The
town.
town?
No.
There's
Nantucket
a man from there.
Yeah,
ATART breaker.
Nantucket was a band from, I believe, the Raleigh area, and they were huge in the late 70s into the early 80s, and they had a couple of hit songs, just kind of a regular rock band, no big deal. Kind of
Nothing to make fun of, but
nothing. No,
They were just
Very-
solid rock.
very radio friendly band.
Yeah.
You know,
They weren't REO Speedwagon,
their
or-
popularity was starting to get a little bit less toward the end of the 80s, and they wanted a couple of bands to open up for them at this place called the Palladium, which is a place right behind the parking garage in
the
Myrtle
old
Beach.
what was it? The Rivoli Theater? What
It was a
called?
Rivoli Theater at
I
one
think
point.
It's like a church.
it's a
now or something,
Christian
right?
type
Yeah,
place now.
It's over by where
we've
like,
seen
Atlas
we've
is.
seen porn there.
Oh, awesome!
So
All right.
I wonder if they still show that as a church.
I don't know. I'm sure there are some remnants of that era.
Possibly. His floor's still sticky. So anyway, Nantucket was playing there, and they needed a couple of local bands to open up to help bring in the crowd. So they got our friends, the Bomb Squad, to play. And maybe it was Cal that called us. Hey, we need another band. I'm like, yeah, we'll fucking do
Maybe
it. What the hell?
that would make sense.
And they were charging $10 to get in. And at that time, $10 was unheard of for a punk band
Yeah.
to be charged. So we told our friends, "Hey, look, man, we're going to get paid no matter what. We're going to get $100. Just don't worry about coming. This is like a whatever show. We're just going there for the money, and we'll open it for Nantucket." Well, we get there, and there's hardly anybody there. I mean, as far as
we got a call that afternoon right before the show that said ask us if we wanted to headline.
headline, no.
I got the call.
It wasn't headlining.
They were lying though.
No, it wasn't.
headlining doesn't mean headlining.
It wasn't
all the time.
headlining.
Headline. That's the
We
word.
were we were, dude. We
That
were
was the word used. I got the phone call. That was the word used. It didn't mean we were headlining. It meant we were playing last.
No, we were not supposed to play last, dude. You're totally.
No, I'm not.
Just drink your light beer and listen to me. Us and the Bomb Squad were supposed to open up.
Who
Bomb
played last? Who played last?
We ended up playing last because they wouldn't let us play. Just hold on. I got this, man.
Okay, make it make sense.
So,
in your head.
so Bomb Squad played, and they were going to have us play after the Bomb Squad. Well, while Bomb Squad was playing, we're sitting up in the balcony or the bleachers, and there's 10 people there to see Nantucket, and that's not including the people in the bands. And the manager comes up. He goes, "Hey, man, not much of a crowd tonight. How about if I just give you $50 and you don't even have to worry about playing?" I'm like, and we told our friends, "Hey, don't worry about coming." But a handful of our friends showed up. Like, well, no, our friends showed up, so they paid $10. We want to play. He's okay. He just walks away. So we walk up there to get ready to play, and Nantucket's pushing us out of the way. Like, no, we're playing. It's like, you motherfuckers. So Nantucket plays to like their 4 friends, basically 5-10 friends, maybe
And
at the most.
The thing is, Perry was nice about the whole thing.
Perry wasn't in the band. Perry was not in the band. Dude, that Perry was not the bass player for Nantucket. Where the fuck are you getting this from?
I don't know. Okay, he was not.
Thank you for agreeing
I totally
with me.
went into a totally different thing that night.
He's talking about Perry Richardson that was in Firehouse and Striper.
I am talking about a different show though,
Yeah, thank you.
but I was right about the other thing.
What you're talking about. Anyway,
Perry did say that.
so we go
There's
to
a Perry story from that night. I got it mixed up.
so we go to get on stage, and Nantucket's pushing us out of the way. He's like, "No, we're playing." I'm like, "What the fuck, man?" So we're sitting there watching. I'm like, "Well," and we start talking like, "Well, we're gonna play anyway. We'll play after them. Fuck it." And so Nantucket plays to their 10 people or whoever, their girlfriends dancing in the audience, and they go to walk off stage, and we go to start setting our stuff up, and a guy we know who was running sound, Steve Romano, starts tearing down his equipment. We're like, wait, Steve, hold on, we're playing. He goes, I'm not getting paid to do sound for you guys. I'm like, but they asked us to play. Sorry. So we're like, huddled real quick. Fuck it, let's just play anyway. So we threw our amps up there. Mark set his drums up, and no PA. We just cranked the amps all the way up, and we just started bashing away. And next thing I know, beer cans and bottles are fucking flying all over our heads and hitting the PA and stuff.
And I didn't have him.
His vocals weren't going through. He's just yelling.
Screaming to the top of my lungs.
He's just yelling.
No PA, knowing there was no PA, I was just doing it and kicking shit.
Yeah, he was kicking over monitors and stuff because we were so pissed at Steve because he always told us, yeah, I'll help you out. He was supposed to be our friend. He's fucking cutting us off. So we're like, just went fucking crazy on stage. And then, so we only got through like, what, maybe 2.5 songs or whatever. And we stopped. And so we start walking off. We're getting our stuff off stage and like, okay, we made our point. And our crowd, the handful of crowd that came to see us had fun throwing bottles and kicking shit over. And his girlfriend Sherry goes up to Steve, who's breaking down the equipment. She goes, "Man, what the fuck? Why'd you cut them off, man?" And Steve shoves her and pushes her up against I
didn't see this. I didn't know.
He pushes her up against a rack of stuff, electronic equipment, and it goes to tip over, and she goes, "Motherfucker!" And she swings at him, and I think and the cops were coming in at that time, so the cops are come in, and Steve's going, "Hey, she's tearing our shit up. Get her out of here." So the cops start grabbing Sherry, and she's biting cops.
Oh, she bit a cop.
Christ.
So the thing's turned into like a mini riot, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm trying to get my shit out the back. Well, the singer for Nantucket comes walking up the back behind the stage, and his girlfriend's with him, her arm around him, and my girlfriend's with me, and we're walking past, and she shoves my girlfriend. Like, my girlfriend had nothing to do with it. His girlfriend had nothing to do with it, but she just started into shit. So this whole stupid thing turned into a mini riot because they wouldn't let us play.
That's hilarious.
And I don't even think we got our $50 out of it.
Damn.
Well, you're not getting paid for this either. So.
Well, we got a good story. We got a good story.
Well, hey, what else? So, what? Any plans for the band right now?
Okay, well, Jason's not playing with us anymore. He's got other things happening. We're trying to.
What I want is to play with him and play with Mark. That's all I want in my life.
We'll figure things out. We're kind of at a standstill right now.
Desires.
It's like a life getting in the way type of thing.
Sure.
He's working. We're doing this, kids and stuff. So we're still trying to get it together. It's just that point in our lives where we're trying to make time for it.
And you have the Black Cat. What is it?
Black Cat Vinyl Records, and it's a mobile store right now. But within the next month, it should be a brick and mortar store.
You that close?
I'm not at liberty to say exactly where it's at right now, but it will be in the Sox T area.
Hell yeah.
I can't say anything right now because it's not 100% finalized, but it's about 98% finalized. So I'll have a Black Cat Vinyl Records.
Well, you're usually at the shows here.
I try to, yeah. Weather, if the weather's working with us, and I feel like it.
Well, hey, you guys, I mean, this has been fucking.
Hey, this has been a fucking blast.
This is fucking awesome. I just want to keep. I mean, turn this shit off and let's just keep talking. I mean, honestly,
we'll save it for another time.
Thank you guys for doing this.
Maybe we'll do a more specific subject and stick with it, and we can expand on that.
Being a kid and not having a lot of friends into punk rock, and then finding you guys about? And me and you. I mean, we didn't exactly have a lot of friends, and we were in the punk rock, and
that's kind of the whole thing about.
And it was, it's cool that you guys put out some records, and they came
discovering
to
that at a young age was really kind of inspiring. Like, holy shit, we can probably We could do this too.
I'm pretty sure I ripped off a Bazooka
I think that's
Joe riff
exactly
when I
how
first
we
made it.
felt.
I do it all the time.
I think that's exactly how we felt 40 years ago. You know,
I've sat there and watched. I've
whatever
gone
it
to see Agnostic Front and DRI and stood right in front of the guitar players, going, "Okay, I can do that." Oh, no, what did he do right there? I'm desperately trying to rip shit off from other people, so fuck it, you know.
Well, anything else you guys want to add?
Man, I just love the fact that I'm proud of the fact that we were some of the original people to
but we happen to
get
exist
things
at
going
a time when
when nobody else wanted anything to do with punk rockers back in the day.
And it's not because we were cool. It's just because we
were
didn't
bored.
have no other choice.
We didn't have a choice. Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
Idiots that found our way to each other and said, "Hey, you know, this isn't so bad."
There wasn't
You know,
going to be a
let's
bar in this town that was going to go, "Hey, let's have a punk band play." No, that was not going to happen in the early '80s ever.
and we never thought it would be cool. We always thought we'd be fucking.
As I said, the closest thing was the Rain Day Inn, which was like just a drinking bar in Garden City that happened to have a band called Babylon play. And it's so cool to see that you know, once we kind of got burnt out or stopped doing what we were doing, Michael Wood took over, and when Michael left, you and
the continuity is fucking amazing.
People keep picking up.
Keeps going.
Yeah.
There's people now booking now, so
yeah, and
I can retire soon.
I'm sure I'm leaving people off, but that I don't even know about yet that are doing stuff. And man, all we need is a place that has a decent stage and enough room. I mean, the Arcadia is great.
We're trying to make Brick House the bigger option.
And Darel Cherry has
option.
been fucking fabulous, man, for letting people to do what we do at his place.
Yeah.
There definitely needs to be an alternative because that's a recording studio and he needs to do what he needs to do there.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a place step up and go, hey, here's a nice stage, here's some lights, just big enough to have a couple of hundred people, and it's a family thing. So hopefully it'll happen.
Andrew, where can you ask me to find those places?
Well, I just want to say thanks again one more time to both Darel and Derelict.
Yes, absolutely.
For your time.
God,
thank you guys so much for
thanks for having us here, man.
Yeah.
Y'all have been like top of our list for so long, and I was like, wait, I have Darel on Facebook. I can just message
I don't know when I've had this much fun. I mean, this is all we've done is just reminisce, and y'all kind of kept us.
I'm glad
Kinda
somebody thought
reeled us
about doing
in every
this.
now and then,
you know?
but-
We usually
Put
sit
some
around.
microphones in front of you.
We usually sit around the the backyard of my. Hold on.
Around the fire pit
around the
in his
fire in my backyard.
Yeah.
And,
Yes, we've been drinking.
and then you know the words we say go up nowhere. So hopefully this will be
And
and
the
people
thing
will
is,
learn
we're
and
not
take
going to
some.
remember
Hopefully they'll
everything
take something
forever.
from it.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to come back and listen to this later. I want to listen to this in 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep paying for the.
Do it, man, just for me.
All right.
Just
Yeah, because I don't want to lose these memories, and this has done a lot for me just to bring some of those back.
That's good to hear.
They're important to me.
All right,
could
you're
probably
getting
do
sappy,
another
dude.
episode
Shut the
on
fuck up.
All right. Well, there's so many things you can do to be part of the local scene here in Myrtle Beach. You can go to the want to be in a band.
Yes.
It's the,
you can go to the.
It's a Google spreadsheet. You
Yeah.
got all these informations for people wanting to play in a band just like you. And also, you like shows. There's nothing like a show in Myrtle Beach. There's nothing like Myrtle Beach shows. You got to go to @MB shows on all the socials. Keep up with the.
It's at Myrtle Beach Shows.
At Myrtle Beach shows. My
on
bad.
Instagram, and then there is the Google Doc.
Sorry, this was a long one. So,
This was a long one.
So, yep.
You want me to do it?
No.
Well, how will they know?
I don't know.
Well, I want to tell them. Can I tell them?
It's fine. Listen.
It's at Myrtle Beach Shows.
Yeah.
You go there on Instagram, and then you find the Google Doc, and then you can put your name on the Google Doc, and you will be on the list with the other people looking to start bands in Myrtle Beach.
I'm on there. Start
and then
a prog
you can
band
start
with me.
Myrtle Beach
Yeah.
bands, and you can have Andrew play bass for your prog band.
Yes, sir. All right, and for more Windley crap, you got to go to @Windley_band on all the socials. Keep up the world in Windley, and that's going to be it. So thank you again to the
To
Double
the
D,
Darels.
the Double D, Double
Thank
Trouble,
you guys.
Bazooka Joe.
This has been amazing.
I love
Thanks
Bazooka
for
Joe.
keeping the
Very
scene
important
going here,
band.
man.
Absolutely. Fuck
you
yeah.
deserve props for
Thank
sure.
you guys for
All right,
giving us the inspiration to keep it going.
All right. So thanks. Goodbye.